Good morning. Good morning. We have quorum. Good morning. So, hello. We were in the iTalk meeting, so we're starting 5 minutes late. I had surgery, so my voice is not good. And so I'm going to ask the first vice chair to chair the meeting today while I'm here because
You can't talk.
I can't talk. Thank you.
You're welcome. So good morning, everybody. The December 13th Board of Directors meeting is called to order. This Friday the 13th. First, I'd like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, the world, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app from a cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you are in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, el globo terráqueo y seleccione español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom desde su celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de la reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. And I don't know, I think this voice thing is catching. Excuse me. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region. Excuse me, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, the Genyo, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Francesca, can you please confirm a quorum?
Thank you, Vice Chair. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We do have a quorum this morning. Currently absent are the City of Chula Vista, the City of El Cajon, I'm sorry, Mayor Wells is here, the City of Imperial Beach, and the City of Poway.
Very good. Please continue, Francesca.
Thank you. We'll start today with non-agenda public and member comments. As a reminder, no comments shall use loud, threatening, profane, or abusive language that disrupts the orderly conduct of the meeting. Disorderly conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the board meeting is prohibited. Per board policy, the amount of time allowed for each verbal public comment is determined based on the number of agenda items, the complexity of those items, and the number of persons anticipated to offer comment. This allows us to hear from as many people as possible and to complete our business while we still have quorum. Based on those factors, the chairwoman has determined that at today's meeting, each member of the public will be allowed 1 minute to speak. We do have several non-agenda public comments. We'll start with Michael Brando, followed by Truth.
2 words: narrative collapse. Narrative collapse. You know, in this world, we cannot live without narratives. And it's apparent so many of these organizations promote false narratives and distrust. Rockwell in the ITALK meeting mentioned about trust is the most important thing. And just this week, the chairwoman, who's the chair of the County Board of Supervisors, her and Monica Montgomery Stepp and Tara Lawson Reamer, as well as egregious legal counsel, Claudia Silva, recommended all kinds of new rules to limit people speaking. Claudia even bragged that, well, people can express themselves well in 60 seconds. A legal freight train, as it was said, is coming hard for the county, and that could happen too as well if there's not course correction. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Truth, followed by Ellen Burr.
All right, that's actually not the chairwoman. That's Santa Claus Nora, for who didn't catch it. I'm Santa Truth, by the way. First, to clarify a comment, I have zero problem keeping conversations confidential, as many people here know, but any staff expecting nobody to hear record a private conversation in a public meeting room is a fool. Proof of that, Joel actually video about my vlog. So Mario, talk to staff about going to their own private offices to have their conversations I don't need to hear. And addressing more aspects of self-accountability, I also protect information and sources, and I talk to everybody who wants to talk to me. So basically, I'm doing your guys' job without the pay and perks. And I do it while facing locked elevators to this room 99% of the time. So if staff's going to keep refusing public access to a public meeting, there's either going to be another lawsuit, or security should just give me a SANDAG badge so I can get in here without issue. Lastly, flipping the script, I just want to express my thankfulness for the year, not including the elevators, all the missed sleep, the craziness, the good conversations, the journey, the lessons, and all the new people I got to meet all around this county. I even got to be IG famous for a hot second the other day. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Ellen Burr, followed by Cesar Javier.
Morning, board. I live in Cardiff, which is part of Encinitas. By the way, clarification, our new mayor had no idea I was going to be here today. I'm here on behalf of all the animals and birds that are dying in the San Alejo Lagoon. I'm here to set the record straight. You had a report from someone, I don't recall if it was NCTD or who, saying that everything was hunky-dory there. Well, it was hunky-dory the first 2 years. Essentially, the last 2 years, the mouth of the lagoon has been closed off most of the time. Today was the first day of 4 days, 4 mornings of king tides. There was a trickle coming in today, which made all of the oil that is settled on top of the lagoon come to the mouth. Nesting sites are covered in water. It was not like this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, or 25 years ago. The engineering is terribly wrong, and it needs to be fixed
Thank you.
yesterday.
Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Cesar Javier, and then Purita Javier, and that'll be the first 5 commenters, and the rest will be taken at the end of the meeting. I'll announce now who will be taken at the end of the meeting. The phone number ending in 813, Blair Beekman, Paul the Bold, the original draw, Jason B., and Catherine Rhodes.
Good morning. I am Purita Javier. Thank God. The air quality index today is moderate, 53% at 7:19 a.m. reading, but not true when the ceramics kiln next door is fired by artists of the San Diego Pottery Guild. The primary business type is non-metallic mineral product manufacturing known as ceramics pottery, home business home. Occupation operating since 1984, located at 5200 block Streamview Drive, San Diego, California, 92105, a neighborhood dedicated as residential zone.
Thank you. Cesar Javier, the husband, a victim also of toxicity. My city is failing. legislative, executive branches. The Air Pollution Control District is failing. My county, under the leadership of Madam Nora Vargas, is failing. The lead agencies to protect us from poison gas, air pollution, the measure to fight is failing. Proof, 1993 issue of Tijuana River. They only conducted the smell measure and their equipment sophisticated to determine the kind of poison gas we are inhaling there. They are not prioritizing the survival, meaning nutrition, medication, hospitalization of the victims. That should be the priority. May I?
Thank you. Your time has expired. Thank you, sir. Your time has expired. We can take that and distribute it on your behalf.
Was that all five?
Yes, thank
Oh,
you.
okay, very good. Alrighty, so non-agenda board member comments. I see Mayor Jones is up.
Thank you so much, Chair and Vice Chair. I was wondering if we could do something. So we do something in the city of San Marcos, which is, I think, a really important thing, and that is we do a best value analysis for outsourcing, because I think we do use a lot of consultant time. So I think it would be good to figure out if outsourcing makes sense or if they should be in-house jobs. And the reason that I think we should do this, at least probably on a yearly basis, is because we want to make sure that we are spending tax dollars the best way possible. So we do this on a regular basis in the city, and we've actually had situations where we brought things in, and then 2 to 3 years later, we found, okay, that is actually not cost effective any longer. And so then we flip those back out. So I think it would just be a good thing for us as a practice to always make sure that we are spending taxpayer dollars the best way possible, whether it would be in-house or using consultants. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up. Thank you very much.
Thanks, good idea. I think we'll have our CEO take a look at that.
Great, thank
Okay,
you.
Sure. Council President LaCava.
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair. I just want to take a moment to introduce or reintroduce myself. Name's Joe LaCava. I am currently the council member in District 1 in the city of San Diego. And on Tuesday, I was very fortunate to be elected as the new council president of the city council at San Diego. And I think, as many of you know, that puts me automatically as a seat on SANDAG. I'm very humbled by that support from my colleagues, including Councilmember Campillo and Councilmember Moreno, that you know very well. So I look forward to the task ahead. Many of you may know that I was chair of the Regional Planning Committee the past year. And got to know a lot of you on that responsibility. I was on shoreline preservation, I think, for the past 4 years going forward. I want to make my comments brief because I didn't book this on my calendar. So I'll move quickly along and let Councilmember Moreno step up here. But I'm also a civil engineer. And whether that is an asset, as you find in your CEO or not, I'll let you all decide. But have spent many years in doing public works, infrastructure, and housing and land development. So I think I can add some perspective into the very challenging conversations that I know we will have in the year ahead. But again, thank you for the good work that you do. I really want to give a shout out to the smaller cities, because I know you get stretched pretty thin on multiple outside assignments. And I really appreciate that good work going forward. So with that, thank you. And thank you, Vice Chair and Chair.
Thank you, Council President, and congratulations on that unanimous vote for your colleagues. Very good. Councilmember Burkholder.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. Just wanted to say thank you to SANDAG staff. The Mobility Working Group did convene and my staff was present, and I believe that we feel like we are being heard. And I also believe that kudos should be given when they are deserved. So very well done for SANDAG staff. Thank you. I think it's going to benefit all of us that we have professionals in the room that can help guide and direct us for what each of our cities need. Thank you.
Nice. Councilmember Chavez.
Very briefly, I wanted to make a comment on item 8, if that's okay.
on the
Item,
consent agenda.
we're not on consent yet. We're on non-agenda member
Perfect.
comments.
I'll wait until then.
Okay, thanks. All right. Okay, a couple announcements. I'd like to announce that we'll be canceling our next executive committee meeting for December and starting back up with executive prior to the board meeting on January 10th. Also, the clerk of the board will be sending an email today outlining the board leadership nominations and elections process. And I would like to welcome our new member from Encinitas, Mayor Bruce Ellers. Welcome. I look forward to working with you, my neighbor city. If you'd like to say a couple of words, you're welcome to.
I'll be very brief. Thank you. I'm drinking from the fire hose right now. So I've been 2 years on city council in Encinitas, and I've had 20 some years of experience on planning commission off and on over the years in Encinitas. So I've got quite a bit of development experience too. So I look forward to contributing, and thank you for everybody. It's been very welcoming.
Wonderful. And I think it's also important to mention for those of us who knew her, that you were quite close with Maggie Houlihan, who served in your city.
Yeah,
for
not a
long
day
time as
goes
well.
by I don't miss her.
Yeah.
So very, very great woman and inspiration to me and my family, my daughters, and miss her every day.
Yeah, she was a rare one. She's wonderful. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize and honor one of our colleagues whose time on this board is coming to an end. That's Mayor Vasquez. I would like to just give you a few personal comments. I've always found that your kindness and collaborative spirit have been a cornerstone of this board. You're always ready to lift up the conversation to a higher level in consideration in our discussions, and I've always appreciated that. You've been a steady and thoughtful advocate for improving our regional transportation system, always emphasizing the importance of connection and community. So on behalf of the board and staff and the entire region, we extend our deepest gratitude to you. And if we have a plaque for you, you'd like to come take a picture with the chair? We thank you for your service and your dedication and your leadership. Raquel, we're going to miss you. Yeah. I'll now turn it over to Mario for his update.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Vasquez. Your collaboration has been really, your thoughtful insights in our conversations have been really enlightening and supportive. So thank you for all that and your service. I want to take a moment also to thank Chairwoman Vargas for her service and her vision and guidance. She really had helped this agency and our staff move through the transition and onboarding us. So we really appreciate that. She really, among some of the examples, she was able to pass a bipartisan budget for SANDAG above $1 billion. She was a strong supporter for the Youth Opportunity Pass program that has been very successful also in increasing ridership. So we really want to thank you for the time as leader and providing us guidance. And the team also had something for you. And I know, Mayor, if you want to help us. There's some pictures here.
This is like.
But if you
I
just
can
want to go
move this
first.
because I think this is important.
Yeah.
This is to you, Chair Vargas.
In recognition and sincere appreciation of your support for SANDAG and all programs in which the agency is involved, we honor you and thank you for your unwavering commitment and dedication to the entire San Diego region. I'd also like to take a moment to just acknowledge that you really have brought this board together in many ways, that you promised not to use the weighted vote, and I can't remember if we even did. I don't think we ever used it one little measly time, not this past year. But I think you've had a really heavy task in the last 2 years, going through some difficult times with this agency, and you really have done it wonderfully with great professionalism and expertise. And I really valued your friendship as well. Thank you.
And I would also like to acknowledge that Melissa Kolev, our Director of Organizational Effectiveness, Melissa, there you are. Why don't you rise? She will be retiring at the end of the year. Melissa has provided 27 years of service here at SANDAG. Thank you, Melissa, for all your dedication to the agency, for helping me through the transition. So we really appreciate that. Thank you. And finally, as the year ends, I want to just remind of a couple of office closures. SANDAG's main office and customer service center will be closed on Wednesday, December the 25th, and Wednesday, January the 1st. And I want to wish all of you happy holidays. Thank you.
I was just informed this is Mel Katz's last meeting with SANDAG as well. We really want to thank you for representing the Water Authority here on this board and appreciate all your time and effort that you put into that position. I know we met on a couple issues in the past, and I know how in depth you go into issues. And thank you for sitting on this board and offering expertise when it was called on. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I represent Del Mar on the San Diego County Water Authority, and it's just been fascinating to sit here and watch how diligent everyone works and how dedicated and passionate they are about the region. And I don't feel that the people sitting around this table who voice their opinions and who are voting on important issues get the recognition they really deserve. SANDAG's an amazing organization, and the elected officials here who do the work and take their votes are really doing amazing work for this region. I've enjoyed it, and I thank you for your service.
Thank you. Mayor Jones, did you have a comment?
Sorry, that it's for the consent.
Oh, okay, very good.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to our chair for a few remarks. Did you want to do that, or did you decide not? Your voice isn't up to it.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for it's been wonderful working with all of you. 2 years as the chair of transportation and then 2 years as your chair. We made some commitments together in the first retreat that we had, and I strongly believe that we've been able to accomplish all those goals and objectives. I had a big speech to give you, but my voice can't handle it. I strained it too much on Tuesday and Wednesday at the board meeting, very, very long board meetings. But it's been my pleasure to serve with all of you, and I'm looking forward to continuing our work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to consent. Francesca, do we have any public comments on the consent agenda?
Thank you, Vice Chair. We do. We'll start with Michael Brando and then go to Truth. And as a friendly reminder to the public commenters, if you could please state the item that you are speaking on before you begin your comments.
2, approve the minutes. No. 3, ratify the actions taken by. No. Regional safety planning updates. No. Ask to approve Transportation Development Act. No. Ask to approve the draft agenda. No. Authorize the chief executive officer. No. Ask to approve an amendment. No. Why am I saying all these no's? Because there's 7 items on consent calendar. People like Cesar Javier and everyone else are given 60 seconds to talk. That would be 8.5 seconds per item. And yet, as an entity, many of you drone on. I know that sounds unpolite, but drone on and disrespect the people. You just took up 5 minutes with all of what was going on, and then you're going to have your discussion about consent. Disrespect, Rockwell.
Your next speaker is Truth, who will be followed by Mark.
More disrespect. If Poway and Vista keep missing meetings, then it's time to demand new reps and alternates. I'd say the same for Oceanside, but Esther. I think it was item 2 where Consuelo actually got to speak twice. That was fun. Item 4, who are the CBOs and what registered areas do they actually represent? Include within the Vision Zero plan a Vision Zero for sewage, a Vision Zero for SANDAG's dangerous, badly designed bike lanes, and a Vision Zero for SANDAG's dangerous public transit. Trolleys should be safe for women and children. Item 5, Santee suffered a nefarious cyber attack, but what's SANDAG's excuse for failing to provide a timely audit to the state? Better hurry before the DOJ finishes their audit first. Item 6, the Mayor Bonita's time is up. Looking forward to that battle for power. I'm going to bring popcorn. Item 7, staff needs to quit failing at cost estimates. 20% over is either bad design, gross mismanagement, or waste. It's $15 million for 3 miles of bike lanes that don't save lives. Item 8, another $12.8 million in the people's tax dollars to pay for SANDAG's flubs on the 125. The IT cost doubled, so where's the website with an account of exactly how many millions have gone to fixing the BOS system?
Our next speaker will be Mark, followed by Cesar Javier.
Mark 6, the draft board agenda is total UN Agenda 21 goals. 3, experts corrupt their own importance. That's a natural occurrence. I mean, if you're an example that's not exactly related, but a weatherman, he could either be the head of the entire climate change Bureau, or he could be a weatherman. What do you think he wants to be? How important is the weather going to be to him? Traffic, you can't park on corners. That's just making it so we have no parking. If people don't look where they're going when they drive, either way, no matter what you do, they're going to have accidents. And if they do look, there won't be. All it did was reduce our parking intentionally, and you're doing nothing to give us more. CPUC on 5 is corrupted, selected by Newsom, giving us the highest energy rates in the U.S., so why trust them for transportation? And 8, all tolls are an unvoted tax against the people who were very clear recently that they do not want any further
Your
taxes.
time has
or
expired. Our next speaker will be Cesar Javier, followed by Ian Hembry.
I believe in the mission of SANDAG. For number 2, yes. Please include our patrimony on non-agenda inputs. Number 3, yes. Number 4, yes. But please, language clarity on vulnerable and most vulnerable spending. Number 5, yes for transparency and equity. 6, yes, please, dig. Please look back, consider mobility circulation on New Horizon, like the concept of East-West Railroad. Number 7, yes, please. Number 8, yes, please. And Godspeed, good luck. Number 9, yes, please. Also, we need to filter, audit, treat performance of our governance members of this great board. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Ian Hembry, followed by Catherine Rhodes.
Good morning, board. My name is Ian Hembry. I'm with the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition. I'm speaking on behalf of being in favor of item 7. The Washington Street and Bachman Place bikeways will provide valuable connections to places people want to go. It will also allow people in uptown San Diego to have a direct connection to transit through the 5 Point Station, opening up opportunities to travel around the region. As the uptown area continues to grow, it is important that sustainable and spatially efficient travel is made safer and more convenient, and these projects will do that. Separated bikeways do save lives, and it is important that vertical delineators are key for keeping drivers in travel lanes and out of harm's way for cyclists. And hopefully in the future, segment 4 of the Uptown Bikeway will get underway so that we can avoid additional cost overruns, which was the case in this project due to the inflationary period. So thank you.
Our next speaker will be Catherine Rhodes, followed by the original draw. Catherine, you can go ahead.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I'm talking about number 4, the Vision Zero. Of course, you know, for me, I feel that a lot of the people who are dying are homeless. A lot of the people who are dying on the freeways are homeless people walking along the freeways. And you don't have any of that information here. you just, and then also the information on the report or the dashboard that I saw, I couldn't figure out, was it numbers for 1 year or numbers for, a total of 5 years? So when I was actually looking at that dashboard, some of the information, just basically, what period are you talking about? And then I was looking at some of the numbers, and some of the numbers just didn't match from one column to another. And so, what I'm asking for, and I thought you guys were supposed to do at one point, is figure out of all the people who died or all the people who are walking around with their all their possessions on them, how many of those people are getting.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is the original draw, who will be followed by a phone number ending in 813.
Yeah, with your regional safety planning update, you're missing some pretty pertinent and important information. The fact that your chair there on the board and the chair on the San Diego County Board of Supervisors is putting our county at risk and the people within the county at risk by trying to aid and abet and also protect criminals. We've had a little girl that's been raped, and instead of protecting her, she wants to protect the predator and make sure that he doesn't have to be deported. So it's pretty sad to see the lengths that this chair will go, and it's actually putting people in danger because the incoming administration is going to be holding all of you accountable that are engaged in aiding and abetting in the treasonous acts of allowing the invasion on our border to happen, all while providing shelter and services to those criminals who are doing so, and not acknowledging the 325,000 children that have gone missing, which is more like 500.
Excuse me, I'd like to remind speakers to speak to the items on consent, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be the phone number ending in 813, followed by Paul Jamison.
Okay, thank you. Consuelo here. Let's see. Yeah, amen to what the original draw just mentioned. And also I wanted to piggyback off of what Catherine Rhodes mentioned. Thank you so much for mentioning that, Catherine. You know what? You're so on point. You're always thinking about the homeless. And that's the thing. It's like everybody wants to have, or at least this corporation is more concerned with bike lanes and the traffic. And it's just like, where are our priorities? Where this is like the season of giving, and the county just gave $2 million to extra dollars.
Could you please let us know what item on consent you're speaking to?
Yep, I'm pretty much speaking on all of them. I was supposed to speak on 8, but you know what? My priority is speaking on things that are important, and things that are important is the human life. And so, with that being
this time
said,
is restricted to items on
you know what?
consent. It's
You're
not the
taking up my
non-agenda public comment.
seconds. You're taking up my seconds. That's not okay. 'Tis the season of giving, not taking. Okay, so give me my time. And what I wanted to finish off by saying.
Our next speaker will be Paul Jamison, followed by Paul the Bold, and Paul the Bold will be our final speaker on consent.
Yeah, I'd like to express my support for item 7, the Washington and Bachman bikeways. I ride these often and can attest to how incredibly dangerous they are for bicyclists. On Washington, you have vehicles traveling at really high speeds, and there's no protection there once again, despite, a bicyclist already being killed there. Bachman's also a steep hill. You got to squeeze between cars, parked cars, and moving vehicles. It's similar to Texas Street, which does have a protected bike lane, but that's, a good distance away. So I think we need a protected bike lane here too. I wanted to address some comments from Mayor Jones at these meetings that bicyclists don't want protected bikeways. This is simply untrue. The vast majority of riders and potential riders understand the danger of being hit from behind by distracted motorists who sort of drift into painted bike lanes, because we see this over and over again in San Diego, and it's a really justified fear, and it keeps a lot of people from riding, which is the goal that we want here. And finally, I think it's unfair to criticize bike projects for being too expensive when they've turned into parking remediation projects. So to save some money here, let's remove that parking as part of the project, and let's prioritize lives over parking. Thanks.
Our final speaker will be Paul the Bold. You can go ahead. Paul, you are self-muted at the moment. You can begin your comments when you're ready.
Sorry.
If the new system will be completed in FY26, why is there a plan to expand 500K in FY27? Then you say the system will be complete next July, but without tools for customer service reps and DMV hold. That's not a good way to restore confidence in a system which failed so spectacularly. Issues like this or fire escape routes in East County should be prioritized. Why don't you actually open with finished system, all tools in place, and a big ta-da rather than a small it's open? Number 7. I mean, this is a matter of prioritizing common sense over projects. The gap from the top of Washington Street along University Avenue, which is where.
Thank you. Your time has expired. That concludes the public commenters.
Okay, very good. I see quite a few member comments up here, so we'll start with Mayor Vasquez.
Hi, yes, my comments are not regarding the consent calendar. I just wanted to share a few words as this is my last meeting, if that's okay.
Yes, I will extend that personal privilege to you.
So actually, I thought today was going to be a party. So I was prepared for a party, but I guess not because I don't see the disco ball or the DJ. Nevertheless, I just wanted to say that it's been quite an incredible journey to serve alongside each and every one of you and to build relationships that really focus around transportation. And it's also been an honor to serve on the executive committee and the audit committee and to participate in conversations shaping transportation priorities throughout the county of San Diego. My goal has always been to ensure projects prioritize equality and provide equitable access for all. But I would always say this, and I hope that people are listening. You know, I always look through the lens of making sure that people could get to wherever they need to go throughout the county in 1 hour or less safely. And I encourage each and every one of you to keep pushing forward with determination and staying focused on the needs of our residents, all residents throughout the county. We've made progress together, and I'm confident that you will continue prioritizing policy, funding, and transparency to keep moving important transportation projects forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Vasquez. Very good. Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. So my comments are regarding item number 4 and then also item number 7. So back to, and I have been bringing this up for a while, and 2 of the commenters have also brought it up today, and that is class 4 bike lanes. So I think that not before, I'm okay with approving these today, but I want to make sure that anytime any more bike lanes come before us, that we have safety data, because I don't want to, I hear folks saying, yes, we want class 4. I hear a lot of people say no. I have people contacting me that say, no, we don't want them. They're not safe. So I think the only way we can figure out if they actually are safe is using regional data to figure out if they are safe. If we are having a tremendous amount of, accidents and that are, not necessary, obviously, because they're actually made because of the infrastructure, whether that be candlesticks or curb stops or whatever it is, or the breaks in the driveways. I know that's been an issue as well along the coast. I think it's just important for us to make data-driven decisions. So before any more bike lanes come, I would request that we actually have data that proves it up one way or another. And we do a lot of outreach to not just the San Diego Biking Coalition, but to all of the biking groups or the cycling groups. I shouldn't say biking, cycling groups in the county, so that, and even East County too. I mean, it's pretty dangerous, and they have actually less area. So I think having data from all over the county for us to make informed decisions would be very important moving forward.
Direction received. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Since we have so many new members on the board, I would like to make a really small comment on item number 8 about the 125. Since 2011, South Bay residents have faced the inequity of living with the only toll road in the county. For over a year, we have been aware of the operational challenges with the back office tolling system challenges that have persisted since the transition to the current system. As we heard at the last meeting, users continue to encounter these issues, including incorrect notices sent to individuals who have already paid. The board was also informed by the Office of the Independent Performance Auditor that the outgoing leadership rushed the sole source process for the current system with Deloitte. I want to express my gratitude to our new management for taking the time to ensure we follow proper procedures and exercise due diligence. While the most equitable solution would be to eliminate the toll until we reach a final financial position where that is possible, the system we implement must be functional, accountable, and serve the public effectively. Chula Vista will continue to prioritize retiring the toll road debt, and in the meantime, we must take concrete steps to rebuild the public's trust in this system. Saying this, I do support item 8, and I thank everyone in management for all the hard work they've been doing.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Gasterland.
Actually, it's Mayor now.
Oh, you did your rotation.
We
Okay.
did, yes. I too have a comment on item 8. It's a reminder, and also for the folks on the board now who haven't been here before, and welcome to all of you. Item 8 is about fixing something that was really broken and fixing it so that until we are in a position to stop the tolls on SR 125, we're truly meeting people's true behavior on the roads. We're not charging them for rides they didn't take. And the $12 million is needed because the original software design was incomplete. It lacks specificity to interact with 2 critical SANDAG data flows, data flowing through the SANDAG systems and through this software system. The characterization here is that the funds are needed for data migration and testing. Well, in the software engineering world, data migration is when you take data from somewhere and you import it into your system, possibly needing to harmonize it with other data. And sometimes you have inconsistent data, sometimes you have incomplete data, and you got to fix all of that. Here, we're really talking about a lack of design. And we saw that in spades several weeks ago, so I won't review the details there. But basically, we're now looking forward to a fresh start with Otay Mesa East. That'll be a completely different tolling system, is my understanding. So I wanted to put that out there as a final question. Is that a correct characterization of where we are?
Yes, the team is preparing a request for information as the first step for request for qualifications for a new system for the future border crossing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And I support item 8.
Supervisor Anderson.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. When we're doing these bike lanes, I noticed not only in my district, but throughout San Diego County, many of the roads are in disrepair. Is there any attempt to tie the bicycle lane upgrades to road repair? It strikes me that we'd have be much more cost effective if we were able to do both together. And perhaps the priority of what bicycle lanes we're adding, we prioritize based on the road repair so that we're taking care of the whole road at one time instead of coming back at a second time. later date. Thank you.
Yes. SANDAG is not the owner of the roads. We go through permitting through the different cities, county, and the cities required us in most of the cases for the upgrades, and we work on partnering on that. A good example is Pershing. You could see how Pershing was totally rehabbed, the pavement in that area. So we work with the cities on that. Most of the cases, it's happening depending if the city requires us or not.
What I found at the county is the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And sometimes it's in our best interest to remind them and just perhaps if SANDAG were to reach out into whatever the entity is, whether it's county or city, and just say, hey, can we prioritize these based on the road repairs? Because we have way more bike lanes that we want to do than we have money for. And I'm just thinking, if we use that as part of the as we prioritize, then we'll get the highest and best use of the limited capital that we have. Thank you very much. And by the way, I was very disappointed in Nora because she didn't use the weighted vote. And several times I requested the weighted vote because that's the only time I get to vote. And I really liked what we were doing and I wanted to be part of it. So that's on a separate note.
I have no comment. Councilmember Burkholder.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair. I'm commenting on item 4 and item 7. Item 4, we've established that Assembly Bill 43 does allow for adjustments to speed limits to be made. However, if you look at the traffic studies and data, adjusting speed limit does not alter drivers' behaviors. What alters drivers' behaviors mostly is enforcement. Any of my law enforcement friends here would probably agree with that. So our city adopted a Vision Zero plan in 2023. And what we've seen, I think it's, what's it called here? With our Safer Streets Together, the local road safety plan. It showed hotspots in our city. Unfortunately, many of them were in my district, but overwhelmingly, it showed the hotspots at interchanges, such as the I-5 and the 78 corridor. I'm sure you knew that was coming back to you somehow. So I think that redesigning the on and off ramps are really going to change the behavior of drivers so that we can have and see the Vision Zero. That's all I wanted to say about item 4. I will support it. I have a little bit of heartache on item 7 because there's no safety data and because what we actually see in the data that I've seen is that class 4 lanes are not safe. They're actually not a safe way to travel via bike. These are too expensive. $5 million for a mile of bike lane is too expensive, not your fault, but that is ridiculous. And I don't believe this is going to be safe. So I think I agree with Mayor Jones. Moving forward, we need to be better informed about what it is we are approving. I will support this today, but I'm not happy about it. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you. And Mayor Minto.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment regarding what Supervisor Anderson was talking about, those coordination in road repairs and bike lanes. Every city does a road improvement index, at least every couple of years or so. Perhaps what can happen is when you just refer to those index reports, because if you see where you're going to put a bicycle lane, that index report says it's poor, then perhaps that's one of those areas you want to make sure that you're taking care of that business. I mean, if they're in good shape, just go ahead and do your work. But I think that's a good place to start as a condition index report. You're welcome.
Okay, I see no more members on the board. May I have a motion to approve consent? Okay, Minto is the motion. Oh, yeah. Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you. I just wanted to put on the record that I'm not in agreement with staff's recommendation on item number 8 in January 2024, and that's the proposed budget amendment for the new regional tolling back office system project on SR 125 and I-15. In January 2024, I was the only board member to vote no on the original sole source contract with Deloitte. Here, the action is an additional $12.8 million in capital project funding spread across fiscal year 25 and 26. that will be required to fully complete the implementation of this new back office system. I didn't agree with this rush sole source in January for this very reason, and I don't agree with this action before us today, and I wanted to make sure that I put that on the record. The 125 should absolutely be free. This is yet another example of the South Bay being treated in a manner that no other community is treated in the whole system, in the whole county. So I wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Minto, a second by Chavez. Please vote. And those of you who are new, you've been given instructions, I assume. 1, 2, and 3 is where you want to go. Mayor Jones. And Mayor Eller.
That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the CEO performance goals and objectives. Mario.
This is hi again, and this is to follow up our conversation from last week. We did put in the objectives, it's not all inclusive, but some measurables on it. It's to show where we're going. A lot is focused on the shoring up the agency and building those guardrails. But I do want to highlight also what a longer vision strategy, and it should be ours. And it's mentioned a little bit on facilitating funding priority discussions for the board. As the agency is getting ready and we're gearing it up for further planning and delivery, we will be, as you have noticed through the PACs and as well as this board, we will be bringing in more and more updates on projects, programs across the board. And we will also be bringing in our financial updates as well as our cash flows, both let it be the local measure, Transnet, or our formula funds, federal or state. All that to gear up to have this conversation, to have those priority discussions. It's something that you have been asking for, and it's something that in order to get to that point, we need to have a lot of information. You all need to have a lot of information. We will be shoring that up. But at the same time, the agency is shoring itself up to deliver what that mandate would be. So this is big picture. This is what these goals are reflecting. Again, they're all not all inclusive. Some of them I was asked, why so low the percentage of the target? Well, the measurement period here is till June of this coming year. And a good example is we just approved the internal control position, or you just approved the internal controls position last week. We're going to go and advertise it. We're going to bring in an expert on risk management for the agency, and we're going to work with that person that gets selected to build their team as well as to build the plan. By that time, we should have a plan. We should be moving forward. It's like putting in the foundations of a house. We don't see the walls yet, but they need to be strong in order to start building upon that. So these are the goals that we put in. Like I said, they're not all inclusive, but it shows an example where we're going in the levels of measurement. That concludes.
Mario, I just wanted to say really quickly, and I wasn't here last week because of my surgery, but one of the goals that we had during the first strategic planning meeting that we had under my tenure as chair was the conversations around the CEO evaluation process. So my intent with this process, and I want to thank the subcommittee that helped put this together, is really so to ensure that we are institutionalizing, just like we have expectations of every team member at SANDAG. We also are very clear with our CEO what our expectations are and that we are providing feedback on a continuous basis. I only think it's fair to the executive as it is to the institution itself. And so I wanted to say thank you to everybody who participated in this effort. It was very important for me that we created a framework that really creates a tool now that it should be institutionalized so that we are not, number one, not clear about what the goals and expectations are for a CEO, but also to ensure that if there is something that is not going well, we have a tool that we can go back to and really use that to address it. So we now have clear expectations, we have goals, we have measurements, and so it's not I like you or I don't like you or we forgot to do the evaluation like it had been done in the past, but now we have a tool that's been institutionalized so that we can professionalize the work of the CEO and be very clear about what our expectations are as a majority of the board. So thank you, Mario, and thank you to everyone who is in the committee, and I hope that that will continue. Oh, and with that, I'm happy to make a motion to approve.
Great. And then I will second it, but we'll go to member public comments first and then member discussion.
Thank you. We'll start with Michael Branda, if you'd like to step up to the podium, followed by Truth.
Three things. Here we go again. Strengthen trust with the board and the public. The public, people out there don't even know this organization exists. And when they do start finding out about what it is from the propaganda that's here, they realize this is not what we're being told it is. One other thing on here, define new organizational structure. Well, if this organization, along with the other MOPs across the country and across the earth, are really illegitimate and being funded illegitimately by taxpayer funds, then there doesn't need to be a structure. There needs to be a dissolution. In fact, Rockwell, I thought you were going to say push forward with termination of SANDAG, not determination earlier. And the last thing, mandates. It makes it seem like you're locked into all kinds of decisions you can't do anything about. It's like passing the buck. Again, narrative collapse, it's coming.
Our next speaker will be Truth, followed by Mark.
Mario, I'm glad you addressed my public records request, that you don't do self-inflating media interviews, and that you don't waste tax dollars on fancy lunches. However, you failed to provide the financial update on an OME mitigation fund that Nora and Jack requested, and I'm still waiting for you to call Catherine Rhodes. And this report was submitted late. I demand timely reports that are ready 1 week before the meeting. So the grade is D- at best. I did my own public survey, and the consensus is that we, the people, demand that Mario submit all of his future updates in the form of e-comments, so we can all have 2 or even 3 minutes to speak. Agenda management should be the chair's responsibility, not the CEO's. Because SANDAG's foundation looks like it got hit with an earthquake, I understand why the lesser priorities like the website changes are taking forever. But I'm disappointed in only 50% compliance with corrective action plan and audit recommendations. Many reps here had great ideas on how to judge performance, but ethics and character was still missing. Someone with good character can learn from mistakes and improve on performance. A bad character can't even admit they've made a mistake. They actually play the victim. Those are the ones I watch closely like a hawk, and I like to call for censures of when necessary. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Mark, followed by Cesar Javier.
Mark, your established goals are Pure Agenda 21. People need to see the Rosa Corey video. Corey is Koire. If you put in Rosa Corey Part 1, it'll come up. The real title is longer on YouTube, Behind the Green Mask, something like that. She mentions that there's no possibility of dissent. This is something you guys should be doing, is addressing the fact that this is actual totalitarian government, that you're not even given the option. You're just told you must do this. The climate action plan, the housing and transportation, it's such a fraud. Our mayor in San Diego going to spend almost $1 billion on 1,000 beds. That's absolutely crazy, and it's real. This guy is, he's not stupid. He can walk around. He can add and subtract. He went to college probably. He's treasonous. It's evil. This is how our plan is being used. And there's so many examples of corruption with housing and transportation. It's absurd. Your goals are treasonous.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Cesar Javier, who will be followed by Paul the Bold.
Cesar Javier, community volunteer. We believe in SANDAG's mission, connecting people with 10 fingers talent, implementing solutions for the survival of man and the thing. This is all about environmental quality. It is already a mandate since. This is our guidelines. And I learned from my public administration attendants are rusty. Resources must be available, adequate, responsive, timely, efficient, effective, and as much as possible, sir, simple, like explaining what is the clarity on these vulnerable and most vulnerable victims of our faults. I speak today because the solutions are here. And this is all about SANDAG, the cream of talents, the cream of politicians, non-politicians, the cream of fighters, World War III type warriors.
Thank
to
you. Your
fight
time has
our
expired.
air pollution.
Our next
climate
speaker will be
Thank-
Paul the Bold, followed by Catherine Rhodes.
Bold. We need a new non-SANDAG person in charge of judging CEO performance. Otherwise, it's conflict of interest. You don't want to force the new CEO to make a top priority of the TJ River project that multiple agencies are working, and that's not SANDAG's focus anyway. Kind of an insult to everyone else. To judge from meetings here at the Board of Supervisors, we need someone who respects people in a diversity of opinion and shows it, who encourages good ideas, whether spoken in 60 seconds or not. Get someone willing to buck the establishment, to follow through on audit stuff, who looks at all the data before setting SANDAG priorities. No phonies or people who fudge the numbers. We need both measurable and actual facts, and a CEO who's not afraid to make them public. And we should have someone who knows computers, technology, and their limitations.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Catherine Rhodes, followed by the original draw.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and thankfully on Monday I'm supposed to have a meeting with a civil engineer in SANDAG for my seismic concerns. But you know, all my concerns that I have is ministerial. These are things Mario could do without anybody from the board actually asking him to do things, specifically related with my seismic issues and regular due diligence, specifically for the SANDAG's headquarters and bus stopover, where you're going to be buying additional buildings on a block where you haven't confirmed or denied act defaulting for 8 years. I mean, come on. There's no corrective action going forward. I had to put my audit back in, so my issues are still outstanding. But I would like Mario to also call me because of the FAA airport money for transit that you could use offsite. I would like to schedule something. Other SANDAG people used to talk to me. Now
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be the original draw, followed by the phone number ending in 813.
Yeah, some of these goals and objectives should be to not silence the people, but you know what I mean? And that you guys don't care about your bosses who you work for. And you should, because as the new administration is coming in and they will be doing things that are actually going against what you guys want to push, like the United Nations Agenda 21, and your whole climate action plan, God, that you will sacrifice anything and anybody just to push. What are you going to do when there's being things that will be de-incentivized as far as your goals go? To continue to push people into 15-minute cities, to walk and bike everywhere and take public transit. Like that's just, even the electric vehicles are going to be de-incentivized. So everything that you guys are doing is going to, come crashing down. So what are your plans to do beyond that? What would your goals and objectives be when all of a sudden you can't push the United Nations Agenda 21? What are you guys going to do? Go home, sleep? That'd be great.
Our final speaker will be the phone number ending in 813. You can go ahead.
Okay, so this item, let's see, I just wanted to say how Nora was right when she said that you guys are never clear. Amen to that, sister. And Mario's building a house analogy. He failed to mention that SANDAG usually builds the foundation of quicksand, mistrust, non-transparency, and recklessness altogether, etc. What Paul did not finish, and I wanted to finish, after all that OIPA has done, it is vital to follow through and restore trust. The 10% target for the development of internal controls lets us all know how important a clean reputation is. Ain't gonna happen, brother. But yeah, okay. He says, please keep an open mind. Thank you.
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. We're now into member discussion. Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair. I have a couple of comments and then I have a proposed change. So on the, and by the way, I do want to publicly say, because I do believe that Mario is very communicative. He reaches out to me about things, making sure that I have the information that I request, and I really appreciate that. So I did want to make mention of that. I was unable to actually make this meeting there. I had an urgent matter that I had to attend to. So I want to talk about item or page 28. Oh, one thing I did want to also say is that if we could please prioritize having the agenda fully on the website the day that we actually release it, because I actually had it printed out and I don't think I printed it until Monday morning. I looked at it already on my computer, but when I printed it out, now my numbers are off. So when I go to find something, it just, because I don't want to reprint the whole thing, but I actually like to make notes on paper. I tried it electronically, it just doesn't work for me. Anyway, so one of the things on page 28, which is the correct page 28, when it talks about leadership and structure, and it talks specifically about RENA, I would like for us to think about resurrecting a RENA working group, because we did have one last time around. And I think it's very helpful to have different cities, different sizes. Encinitas was on there last time, and I know that that's a priority of theirs. The other thing is on page 29, where it says focus and fundamentals, deliver board approved work program, including Transnet program. I brought up Transnet specifically several times. And so I think it would be prudent to have that as a standalone. And so my proposal would be, and this will be a motion, so I'm not quite sure where we would put this, but on the oversight and transparency, the establish culture of fiscal oversight and management, I think in that heading, it should say to both public and board members. So that'd be one change. And
So,
then
Mayor Jones,
sorry.
just for clarification.
Yes.
We can make changes without necessarily making an amendment. I mean, do you want to make a whole other motion? Is that what you're trying to do? Substitute motion? Because I made a motion already. and
Yeah,
there's a second.
if you will agree to them, then no, it
Yeah.
won't be necessary. So let me,
Yeah, so
let
why
me
don't
just
we go ahead and you share them and then, okay.
100%. Thank you so much. Okay, so on page 29 at the top, it says oversight and transparency, establish culture of fiscal oversight and management. I'd like to add to both the public and board members to that. It's a minimum, it's a very small change. And then going down to focus on fundamentals, delivering the board approved work program, including Transnet program. I'd like the Transnet to be a standalone. So it would be Transnet progress plan and then regular updates. So I'd like to move that up to the item that I just spoke about, which is the oversight and transparency, the establishing the culture of fiscal oversight and management. So there will be 4 items under oversight and transparency, one being the Transnet progress plan, and then also regular updates. And then, so I guess actually it wouldn't be 2 on focus and fundamentals. That would stay the same. It would just move the heading, the Transnet program up to a standalone under the oversight and transparency. So that would have 4. And then the focus and fundamentals would remain the same. If you would revise that, that would be fabulous. I would appreciate it very much. And that, is that a yes? Thank you very much. And
Well,
I appreciate that.
I do have a comment on the RENA working
Sure.
group, because in the
Yeah.
past, it was the Regional Planning Committee. So having a RENA working group was an unusual step. Rather than putting the trust in the people that we have chosen, you would be asking actually for the chair to choose a RENA working group. I think it might make more sense for all of us to do that work when it comes around within the Regional Planning Committee. Because
So-
each of us is represented, you know.
Yeah, and so what maybe we would do, and this might be a more collaborative way, is having regular updates and discussion about it before it actually gets to that point, because it was kind of like a boom, here it is. And so having it come to the board of directors as an update would be an excellent way to actually mitigate that, and then also show that everyone will have a voice at the table.
That's great.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So you're saying, Mario, that why don't you go ahead and say that publicly?
No, exactly what you're saying, but also we can make more robust presentations for discussions like on the regional working committee group on the subject. And that spurs the conversation and it bubbles it up to the board. So we can generate those discussions.
Yeah, I think that would just be helpful because as what happened with several of the cities, Lemon Grove, Coronado, and I think it was IB actually.
In Solana Beach.
In Solana Beach, sorry. There was that lawsuit, and I feel like if we had more of those discussions ahead of time and we ended up, coming up with more of a collaborative solution, it would really be helpful for us. And again, to the point that we are talking about being more collaborative and getting along and not having fights, I think that would be a very important part of the discussion.
Yeah, for sure. And just a side comment, actually, the city manager of Coronado actually proposed the same thing this week on a working meeting with us to have more broader conversations on RENA during the working groups. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right.
May I ask just a point of clarification?
Sure.
So where, after that conversation, are the discussions on RENA going to be housed through SANDAG?
We could have them, well, at the board, of course, right?
Right, but did you say regional planning group?
Regional working committee group.
Well, regional
Where's
planning, the regional planning
The
committee.
planning committee
Yeah.
that we have, the regional
It
planning
currently is
committee.
chaired by Joe LaCava, and that the members choose the members of that. A working group, normally the chair chooses the members.
Okay, so again, I'm
Right.
sorry. It's
So I think as you are moving forward with the transition for new leadership, one of the requests that you should make of the new chair is if you want it to be different than when you have, then you propose that at the next meeting. Once you get a new chair, it's not necessarily an infrastructure issue for the CEO, since it's in the purview of the actual chair who gets appointed to committees and how that works. But I think it's been duly noted. And so on the operations piece is what Mario has committed to providing that information to folks. And I think now it's left up to the board at your next meeting when you have a new chair to have that discussion. I would say, you can have it in the regional plan. The regional plan is also open to members. And if you want to go back and have it as a separate committee, you can have that too. But I think it would, if you wanted to have that conversation separately, it wasn't on the agenda today. So I think we would be kind of straying from it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I was just asking my question after that lengthy discussion that was just happened at the board meeting I'm at. So I was just asking where currently this conversation, or where did it take place in the past? Because I joined 2 years ago, this board, after that had happened.
Yeah,
And as you
might have
well
missed
know,
it.
Coronado was forced to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and reach an agreement with the Attorney General, which made an accommodation which was not in the directive we received, which was to allow our lowest income housing to be counted at the housing on the military base, since the military jobs were counted, but the housing was not. So we had to be sued by the Attorney General and file a settlement the same day because there was no other way around fixing that error.
So I think you might have missed it because she actually said it. So go ahead and say it again.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I didn't understand.
So the Regional Planning Committee is where we have in the past always had the RENA discussions. It was unusual where 2 chairs ago that she chose the people who would be on a regional RENA working group.
Thank you. And so I just last question, clarification. So the regional planning group you're referring to? Committee, yes. How many times a year do they meet?
They would normally meet once a month. I don't know how it's been.
It depends. Yeah, but once a month.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. It's like, transportation, borders, public safety, regional planning, that.
No, I understand what
Okay.
PACs are. I just thought that group was meeting 4 times a year and I hadn't.
Oh,
really-
no, I don't know how much.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to find out if somebody knows, they could tell me, but I'll look it up.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Maxis?
Good morning, thank you. Also on page 29, under the oversight and transparency goal, it says that we're going to provide, the CEO will provide more opportunity for the public to have access and understand what's going on with monies. And of course, the Transnet dashboard is a great idea. Because it was 2004, 20 years ago, that the Transnet extension was put into play, and it clearly said on the literature for it that it would be used to pay for improvement and expansion of basically all of the highways that serve the unincorporated area. So for the public to really understand what's going on with that, in addition to the current work projects that Transnet is funding, which I believe was the understanding for this item, the 20 years of Transnet funding will be of great interest to the people in the unincorporated area. They're going to want to know where that funding went, what was it spent on, how did it impact their area. So that will continually come up. And I applaud the transparency, and I really like to see a dashboard, but it will need to be really effective for the public's point of view in the unincorporated area. It needs to have some history behind it and have some historical numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Jones, you're back up.
I just had a follow-up thing that I wanted to mention, and I've asked our outside counsel or our board counsel to get back to us and let us know whether the Transnet vote can be changed via the old voting system when Transnet was passed, which would be more clear to the community that voted for Transnet, or if it can be changed at the current board structure after AB 805. So I think he's going to be working on that. All right, thank you.
Okay, very good. We have a motion by Vargas, a second by Hebner. Please vote.
That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Very good. We'll now move on to item number 10, the year in review. Mario.
Okay. Good morning. Today, I'm happy to provide the board with the fiscal year 2024 annual report, including a special Transnet report in response to Councilmember Burkholder's request earlier this year. So you will find that with you. We also went to our annual Transnet mobility working groups to have discussions about the annual Transnet report. The item that I mentioned that Councilmember Burkholder had requested together with the report is printed and excluded in your agenda also for reference, and we will be emailing it to all of you also. Now, we have been talking about a lot of shoring up and looking into a little bit of the past in the future. But, you know, the team has been working very hard, north, south, east, and coastal with many, many projects and partnerships. And like I mentioned a couple of months ago, we plan, we deliver, but we can't do it without the owner operators in collaboration. So, you know, I wanted to highlight, you will be seeing a video of that, but I can't stop stressing our three main core partners, but there are many more, the cities, all the entities, the communities, but for the owner operators, we have Caltrans for our highways. We have our transit operators, MTS and North County Transit. And I'm going to pass it on to them, to my three partners, to talk a little bit about our partnerships and our joint achievements, and then we will move on. Why don't we start with you, Ann?
Thanks, Mario. I do have a few words to say, and I keep hitting this bell, my bell. I was bringing your party for you, yes. Our strong partnerships and collaboration with SANDAG and the entire San Diego region is truly recognized around the state, and allows us to fund and deliver highway transit, active transportation, and quality of life projects that provide people with the choices on how they do move around this region. I believe our successes come through our shared values and goals. Both Caltrans and SANDAG are focused on enhancing and maintaining our transportation networks, including our highways, our transit systems, and our local roads. Developing sustainable transportation solutions that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, promote clean energy alternatives, and protect our natural resources. We work closely to ensure that transportation networks support efficient commerce, trade, and connectivity to regional and national markets, and providing transportation solutions that are inclusive, affordable, and accessible to everyone. Caltrans will continue leading efforts and working with SANDAG to advance important regional priorities with the studies, analysis, and design work to deliver on future corridor projects, including 805, 67, 78, and the 94-125 interchange. We also acknowledge all the partnerships and work to keep the transportation system in a good state of repair and deliver unique improvements like the Caltrans Clean California program. With Clean California, we were able to fund 12 projects from Ramona to Vista to San Isidro and Barrio Logan, and provide $22 million in grants for 8 more local projects, everywhere from El Cajon, Imperial Beach, National City to Escondido, and with our partners MTS and NCTD. Lastly, we want to recognize our community partners who lead on the Reconnecting Communities, both the federal and the state programs, and help us listen, learn from communities from Southeast San Diego to our rural unincorporated county. Over the past year, we've hosted conferences, we've done site visits, public events, and strategized to incorporate community benefit into all of our projects. And with that, we look forward to the year ahead, working with SANDAG and our partner transportation agencies with MTS, NCTD, the airport, port, our tribes, our military, and all the cities and the county around the dais. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mary?
Hello, Chair, members of the board. My name is Mary Dover, and I'm the Chief of Staff for the North County Transit District. Unfortunately, our CEO, Sean Donahue, couldn't be here with us today, so I have the pleasure of presenting a little bit about NCTD's partnership with SANDAG in 2024 and goals that we're going to be setting in 2025. SANDAG broke ground on 2 projects on the Losan corridor that are going to be critical to ensuring the resiliency of the Losan corridor. The Bataquitos Lagoon double track project, which replaces an aging bridge, a single track bridge, and replacing it with a double track bridge. This will allow NCTD and our partners at BNSF Freight and Amtrak to increase frequencies. Reducing that single track bottleneck allows more trains to pass through at one particular time. And also the Del Mar Bluff Stabilization Project. This project is critical to making sure that we maintain that rail connection from San Diego to Los Angeles. We also have partnered with SANDAG and MTS on the Youth Opportunity Pass, and we've been talking a lot at this board about the airport transit connection. Ensuring a heavy rail connection to the airport is one of NCTD's biggest priorities, and we're working with SANDAG staff and MTS on a solution to that. NCTD is also furthering transit-oriented development projects, and we've been working very closely with SANDAG to make sure that these projects incorporate some of the mobility plan elements, electric vehicle charging, really multimodal connections so that it's easy to pass through our transit centers for pedestrians and cyclists. Looking forward, NCTD this year launched our NCTD Plus microtransit pilot in the city of San Marcos. We've been very appreciative of Mayor Jones's support and the whole city council support for that. SANDAG has a lot of opportunity to expand projects like this so that we can provide this benefit for more folks in our service area to make sure that that first last mile connection is filled. At NCTD, we also, for those who may not be intimately aware, we have the coaster corridor that goes north to south and then the Sprinter corridor that runs along the 78. We're looking to transition the Sprinter vehicles from their existing fleet to a new fleet, and we're looking forward to partnering with SANDAG on receiving funding for that. Pass it off to Sharon.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning, board members. It's nice to see so many familiar faces. My name is Sharon Cooney. I'm the CEO of the Metropolitan Transit System. I am very pleased to sit here with my partners from the other transportation agencies so that we can talk about our goals for 2025. You know, in the past year, MTS has really done a lot towards its goals of increasing ridership in providing a safe, reliable form of public transportation to provide options to the region. And we continue to build back our ridership after the pandemic. Right now, we're about 85 to 90% of the ridership pre-pandemic. We are growing steadily. We had a 10.5% increase in ridership this past calendar year. And we are really pushing a lot of different efforts forward to try to make that happen even to get even further into the better ridership post-pandemic. For instance, special events have been a big boon for us. We provided special event service last year to 226 various events. Yay, Padres. We carried almost 1 million people at those special events. And this brings new riders to the system who maybe don't really look at us as their option for commuting, but they do look at us as an excellent way to move around the county on their leisure trips. We also did this despite a number of challenges. We were impacted heavily by the floods on January 22nd. We had incurred $27 million worth of damage. The transit system, the Charlie system was shut down for several days, but we bounced back. And part of that is through our partnerships. And again, we partner with SANDAG this year on a number of initiatives. As Mary mentioned, we partnered on the Youth Opportunity Pass, which is a real success story. We increased youth ridership on the MTS system by 31%. And that's over pre-pandemic numbers, 2019. We carried about 7 million youth riders this past calendar year. And that's a fantastic testament to SANDAG's investment in youth here in the county. We've also made a lot of progress on the San Isidro project to improve the intermodal center at San Isidro at the border. And we, again, worked with NCTD and SANDAG on the airport connector. We're going to be doing a lot of improvements this year to improve the customer experience and our service to all of the cities in our jurisdiction, including things like improving security. We've enhanced security on our system by 60%. And so that is really going to be a benefit. And we're doing a lot of capital improvement projects. For instance, we're investing $134 million in the Orange Line trolley. So we will be seeing that work starting in the spring. And we are going to be looking at new services. We're going to be going to 15-minute service on all of our trolley lines this year. And we will also be starting a new overnight service, the 910. That will actually start on January 26th. So that will provide a new option for people who have different shift work that will go from downtown San Diego to the San Isidro border. So we're excited about all these improvements, and we are looking forward to partnering with SANDAG to fulfill the goals for 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all our partners. As you could see, there's a lot of exciting work, a lot of things happening, and this won't happen without the board support. So together, hopefully, we'll be working towards all these goals and others for the next year. So I'm very excited about this. And I think the team has a video set up. Thank you. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you so much. We'll now go on to public comments.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We'll start with Truth, and Truth will be followed by Michael Brando.
All right, year in review. On the negative, MTS continued to fail hard. Empty 60-foot buses, unsafe, dirty, fiscally irresponsible. I like to know how many low-income people benefit from the e-bike lanes or the bus projects. And I really don't remember any projects getting completed. I remember the hundreds of millions of tax dollars wasted on the 125 toll fiasco. I remember Sean threatening everyone.
Test me on that.
That just proves that Joe was needed long time ago. I remember this. Hold on.
I take offense to that. I really take offense to that. And I find that very offensive.
On the positive now, I remember how much things have actually changed for the better here compared to last year. And that has nothing to do with Mario or the Mayor Bonita. It has more to do with me being one of the only checks and balances around here. You're welcome. It's fun to make people think and rearrange and get in their correct lanes when their ego gets them off course. And by the way, nobody answered the SANDAG main phone line this morning when I called about being locked out from this public meeting. Things like that. You need some serious improvement here. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Michael Brando. Michael will be followed by Mark.
For the record, I mentioned MOP. I meant MPOs, but MOP, that's an acronym for MPO, because this is all going to be mopped up eventually. Today's meeting and this item is sponsored by Narrative Collapse. I want to address the partners first. It's unbelievable, but really not so much, that Sharon Cooney would sit here with a straight face and talk about a safe, reliable form of transportation. Absolute nonsense. We already heard Bill Wells says he wouldn't let his wife or his daughter ride the rail. And even Gasterland over here said at the airport she wouldn't take the MTS. Something needs to be done about that. I want to address Caltrans. Caltrans, let's see, Ann Fox said that she referred to shared values and goals. My question is, whose shared values and goals? I want to mention related to that, that organization was the one that terrorized people with all their signs about getting the bioweapon serum injection that have made a few of you very sick. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Mark, followed by Cesar Javier.
Regarding 10 key projects, there's a news article about new ADUs in Claremont. 12 or 15 in the backyard, the garage converted to an ADU, $2,500 per unit. Wow, that's brilliant. You won't stop inflation because by the Federal Reserve or correct the wealth distribution. So, and I know that's not in your purview, but it is your responsibility to point out that you can't correct any problems without doing that or without the government doing that. So because of that, and what a scam it is, there'll be more and more people that'll be poverty level or homeless and or need public transportation. So increased ridership is not a good thing. It's a sign people are in poverty. AI-controlled cameras will complete a perfect totalitarian society created by your corporate oligarchy. A militarized police force, partially federally funded, will enforce total control. And you guys really need to think about what you're doing and where you're going. It's not that the idea, I was excited about rails, electric rail systems and such, but you make it cost too much. People make money off the globalist agenda. It's
Thank
a
you.
scam.
Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Cesar Javier, followed by Paul the Bold.
Cesar Javier, please hear from a senior resident. Thank you for the leadership, Honorable Mario Orso, and our lead agency, the mother of all agencies in the region, Ma'am Nora Vargas. We have seen you work. I know the difficulties. Number one, this varied cultural, diverse opinions in the planning, crafting of the law. And worse is the hardest portion for the implementers to accomplish it. Two facets, which we need 10 fingers. And the honesty in ourselves. We observe that there is a greater majority.
Thank you. Your time has
of
expired.
Honest
Our
and
next
wise.
speaker will be Paul the Bold. You can go ahead when you're ready.
All bold. The year in review is probably a big secret since the script wasn't agendized and the details still aren't public, really. I think that Mario's made a few good improvements, been more open with the board, but too many important audit recommendations are undone. Too many SANDAG, non-SANDAG speakers are ignored, and people still don't trust SANDAG. It's nice that each county has a rep. That's an improvement, but she still has no vote. SANDAG still has the same goals, although its funding is deservedly drying up. Still wasting taxpayer money, still a huge trust gap, still following a pre-planned script which does little but inflame tensions and incomplete or incrementally worked on projects. Finally,
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Catherine Rhodes, followed by the original draw.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. And first I want to say thank you to Truth. I've been locked out of SANDAG meetings many times at the elevator and I can't get up and it's a big, huge problem. So something should be done. So anyway, SANDAG's part of the ongoing corruption between the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority and the FAA Airport District Officer in LA, the staff up there, for the violations of the 2008 Airport Master Plan, where you said you're not going to sue the airport authority unless we get that 4% transit to the airport from 20 years ago or 16 years ago. So anyway, the solution is a legal analysis from your new outside legal counsel, the State Lands Commission, and the State Attorney General on the use of normally restricted airport revenue by San Diego being one of 12 federal FAA grandfathered airports on state or federal public trust lands. So 16 years of being suckered. The San Diego County Airport Authority said they paid the fair share.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next will be the original draw, followed by the phone number ending in 813.
How much you guys pay for that propaganda update video that had no sound? Probably over $1,000 or something. You wasted of our money for that crap. You have Newsom in there at the border. Nobody's here because we cleaned it up and we made it look like there's not even any trash on the ground that these people have left. That's what's so funny. You guys pretend to care about the planet, but you don't seem to care that the people that are coming across the border are potentially destroying it and causing a lot of greenhouse gases. So it's interesting. And then I love the way you guys talk about providing and giving options. It's like they're the options that you think that we should choose from. Not just like we're giving you a free thinking option. Whatever you want to do, you can. It's like, do you want to eat my poop or do you want to eat your poop? You have the option, but you have to eat poop either way. It's like, I don't want to eat poop. I mean, just the things that you guys do are so ridiculous. And until you are sitting there walking and biking and taking public transit and that's it, keep it out of your mouth to have people and say that you're giving them choices.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be the phone number ending in 813, followed by Blair Beekman.
Hey, Gonzalo here. So yeah, it's just, I'm always reminded by something I once read every time I attend these meetings. You could be standing next to someone in the same room and be in two totally different worlds. It is so evident that many here that claim to serve the public do not see how much harm they're really causing, or maybe you do. So in the presentation it's mentioned, looking forward to working with the communities, yet you have concerned county residents that participate in these meetings, these same meetings, and you all don't even reach out and communicate with them. Again, more lip service and these pretty little presentations. And yeah, and as far as like this transportation, as far as transportation goes, yeah, truth be told, as a teenager, I did take public transportation, and it only went to show me how I was so desperate to buy my first car. That's, yeah, and nothing's changed really, honestly.
Thank you. Our final speaker on this item will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Still traveling in Southeast Asia. It's 1:43 a.m. Saturday morning here. Yeah, thanks for this item. I think the concepts of accountability within SANDAG, it's a question that I think a lot of San Diego County cities and government is really considering at this time, how to better improve themselves on the subject. I think SANDAG, you're learning some important lessons. Good luck in those lessons. It's a learning process. I think we can do it. Tech accountability policies and practices can really help in that effort. Good luck towards that, and really bringing the public along, asking their opinion, involving them. That's how we need to rebuild trust. And I think we have good steps to do that here at SANDAG. Good luck in how to really want to work on that for everyone, that we're all clear with each other. That's all. We practice clarity. Thank you.
That concludes the public comments on this item.
Okay, very good. We'll move on to member discussion. Councilmember Molina.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Huebner. Thank you very much to our representatives here today from the partners from Caltrans and MTS and NTCD. I really appreciate hearing the good things that are happening for public transportation. I do ride the buses and the trolley. In National City, we have 2 stations, and I live very close to 24th Street Trolley Station, so it is pretty accessible for me. And I do take it to places such as downtown, and I've ridden it once to UCSD, though it was a very long trip. But I do appreciate folks that don't have the access to that, and their primary mode of transportation has to be their autos, their cars. That's okay. I am just interested in elevating the option that public transportation is an option for those that would like to consider it. I think the Youth Opportunity Pass is a wonderful project. I think that is one of the ways that the next generation will, when they become adults, will consider public transportation an option because they already are familiar with it if they are using their Youth Opportunity Pass. So I think that is a great example for how we can encourage more ridership. The question I have, one thing I was going to mention, every time I ride the bus from the 24th Street station over to 27th Street, which is where my house is, the bus drivers are always very friendly. They are on time. I never have trouble. I never have issues with the timing as far as how long I have to wait. The frequency, again, in my example, is very accessible. The one question I do have is primarily this year, the one thing I do remember is the boycott for the bus drivers for MTS. And I want to highlight that, of course, it's not a highlight on the positive sense. I just want to remind folks that it is important to take care of the system as a whole, right? We want to improve the safety. And that's another question, or another point I wanted to make. I have never had issues with safety on the trolley or the bus. I know that it does occur. I'm just giving my example that thankfully I feel very safe on both. But I do want to elevate the topic of the bus drivers and facilities for, such as I keep hearing all the time, are there going to be improvements such as bathrooms at the stations? And Ms. Cooney, I wanted to give you an opportunity to highlight some of that. Has there been improvement?
We are actually doing a transit amenities study to put together a policy for distribution of those kinds of amenities in the system. But we have enhanced the experience for our operators with regard to bathrooms throughout the system. And I believe you referenced the work stoppage that occurred a year and a half ago. And that is certainly always a concern of ours, particularly as it related to the contractor who operates in the South Bay.
Okay, very good. Well, yeah, thank you for clarifying that. A year and a half ago, sometimes time just seems like it was yesterday, right? But thank you for all the work that you do. I do appreciate all of the highlights, and I do encourage folks to ride transit if it is something that you're willing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chavez.
First of all, thank you for that great presentation. Last year, I had the honor and privilege to represent Chula Vista on the board of directors and the security committee, and I remember a focus group that I'm haunted by that mentioned, you know, and while I appreciate Councilmember Molina's mentioning she feels safe when she rides, the majority of people, the number one priority is safety. They don't feel safe. They say things in the focus group, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sharon, that I can run, but my kids can't. I have to wake up in the morning and see if I put on a skirt, but I prefer pants and tennis shoes. And, you know, we have mixed communication with a lot of people where they've been, you know, screamed at, racial slurs, you know, chasing after, and they just, it's very necessary. I know we added more staff to be on site and visible. And I think the number one priority for MTS is always going to be safety, people feeling safe. We don't have, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong, I haven't been there a year, but we don't have live communication, live feed for our trolley, I don't want to say drivers, but yes, to be able to communicate to, hey, the next bus stop or the next stop, I need you to get someone on board or on site because there's this person offending or just making someone uncomfortable. We need more on-site staff. I will always support that for MTS because the focus group was very clear. People didn't feel safe riding. And I also appreciate hearing that we were going to do the 15-minute service on all trolley lines. I love that because I've always been mentioning as well that we have a huge workforce that goes southbound every single day that need it, that really actually out of necessity need this transportation. We have 100,000 people that come to work and the majority stays in downtown and the surroundings. But I think that after we need to think holistically on this huge workforce that we have that is going southbound after 11:45. I appreciate hearing that as well. I would also, as was mentioned with the Youth Opportunity Pass, I would also encourage the Senior Opportunity Pass. A lot of our seniors are, did you say thank you? John Venta. The Senior Opportunity Pass, just because, you know, everything is a mortgage right now. Everything is so expensive. Rent's expensive. Property taxes are expensive. So just what they're living with is not sustainable, right? And then these are the people that need to get, I know we have many programs for seniors. I just think that the few that need this trolley transportation should be eligible to ride at a discount or even more than a discount. So I appreciated everything that you brought to here today. I see a lot of improvements in MTS, and I'm really hopeful that we're going to promote ridership even more this upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. So I have a question, well, actually a comment, and maybe it's something that needs to be added, is when we talk about impact metrics, one of the things that and I've been talking about this actually for a while, is we have geographically disadvantaged communities, which are pretty far out. So if you're thinking about Fallbrook, Valley Center, Bonsall, Hamul, Alpine, all of those sorts of areas, they're pretty far out from the job centers. And so just kind of thinking about, you know, where it talks about the impact metrics on page, well, I don't know if it's my 36. I actually think it's probably more likely 39 or 40 on the regular agenda. On the impact metrics, because of my agenda issue, the percentage of the population and jobs near high quality transit, these areas are impacted highly, and Ramona even is one of them. So, when you're thinking about the population, the lack of transportation kept them and resulted then in being late to destinations, medical appointments, education, social engagements. I think having a discussion or, it being a high priority of where they're located within the county, some of the further people that live further out live so due to the expensive housing. And the problem is, we don't want to penalize them and not allow them for the upward mobility that they deserve because of where they're located, because that actually defeats everything I think that we're talking about. So just trying to figure out, and then, having also flexible fleets as an option for all over. And, I think every city could benefit from flexible fleets with the like NCTD Plus, for instance. We're seeing such a great response from it, I believe. And the last time I was told and I checked in, and, I have citizens saying, okay, well, can you expand it a little bit more? Because my part of the city, I can't get around, but I would totally use it. So just for us to think about the geographic part of it and then the flexible fleets, because if we can get those sorts of things, I mean, they're much cheaper than a rail line and, or a trolley, but you can't even get a trolley or a rail line to many of these further reaches of the county. So anyway, just want to bring that up. I don't know if it's something that needs to be codified within the what we're approving today, or if it's something that
There's no action today. This is
wanna
just
make
discussion.
Okay. I just want to make sure that it doesn't get left out, because I think it does matter. And we, like I said, we have a lot of people that live in those further reaches, and, we don't want to be a reason that they're not successful in life. Thank you.
Chair, I can make a point on
Yes,
that.
please, Mary.
That's one of the things that we're looking at with the microtransit. There are some areas that are harder to reach with traditional forms of transit. A bus route, it's too lengthy, or the route to get there is too far from one of our yards. So that's part of the reason why we're testing out microtransit pilots in various areas. Fallbrook is one of our upcoming pilot programs, hard to reach traditionally by transit. So we will be looking at that, and we can assess the feasibility of the microtransit through these pilot programs.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Burkholder.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just was one question. What is the average age of riders? Do we have that information?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
Okay. I'm just thinking of, since we have youth opportunity passes, now we want senior passes. I'm just wondering who pays to potentially to ride the train.
I can tell you that a large portion of our ridership is below the age of 30. And so it's between that 20 to 30 that you get a large percentage of our ridership, but it's across the board.
Yeah. Okay.
But just to clarify, we do offer a discounted senior
For seniors, I thought so. Yeah.
Senior disabled Medicare pass is $23 a month.
$23 a month. That's great. Okay. Thank you. It just made me think of that. Like, well, I'm not sure. I guess I can appreciate data and stats that you're showing from 2019 to now. If we remember, not only was the economy shut down, our schools were shut down, everything was shut down. Nobody was riding anything because we were told to stay home. And I think that I have a bit of a statistical background, and you can probably have things show what you want them to show. So I think it would have been better to have a 10-year snapshot to show rider stats, maybe from 2014 to or however recent you could get that. Because here's the whole point. I think we should really think about what Mayor Jones said, flexible fleets. Our communities are asking for it. They would love to be able to, well, especially in the village, to not try to find a parking place, to have a flexible fleet option to get down there. And, we continuously say to encourage to repurpose funding for something that is not working and make it attainable for the residents to use. I think that's really important. And we also have emerging technologies that are coming. We've got AI and we've got autopiloted cars, and Phoenix, I think, is doing that at their airports right now. So always critically thinking about the future is what I would just encourage, and I think our city does as well. And then I just wanted to ask if the board member comments could be included in the minutes for this report. Thank you. Thank you for your report.
Thank you. Thanks so very much for your report. And it was just a discussion item, so we'll now move on to item number 11, the Transnet Smart Growth Incentive Program.
Yes. And on this item, there has been robust conversation on pretty much ITALK, Transportation Committee, and the regional planning. In the item that's being presented to you, there's a discrepancy on ITALK between the recommendation ITALK is bringing, as well as Transportation Committee and the Regional Planning Committee. And from a staff perspective, we're agnostic of what the board decides. We want both of them are good alternatives. One is basically allowing the applicants to use local Transnet dollars as a match. And that was what ITALK recommended. And Transportation Committee and Regional Planning Committee recommended that not to allow the local entities to use their local Transnet dollars, but under the understanding that in-kind work from that city is considered part of the match. That is the basic difference. And there's been very robust conversations on those multiple working committees about this. And I'll let Goldie and Jenny go with that. But I just wanted to provide that summary of basically the difference between the recommendations.
Good morning. So I'm Jenny Russo. I'm the Grants Program Manager here at SANDAG. I'm joined by Goldie Herbon. She is the Smart Growth Incentive Program, or SGIP Program Manager. And we're here to present to you the Cycle 6 call for projects. And as Mario mentioned, we have a piece that we're looking for direction on regarding the use of Transnet as a match. And let's get us started. So smart growth is a development pattern characterized by more compact, high-density development in urbanized areas. It focuses future growth and infill development close to jobs, services, and public facilities to maximize the use of its existing infrastructure and to preserve open space and natural resources. The SGIP is a competitive program that's funded exclusively by Transnet. The overall goal of the program is to provide funding for all of our local agencies for a broad array of transportation infrastructure improvements that will assist with better integration of land use and transportation. We've held 5 cycles of the SGIP, beginning with cycle 1 in 2009 and concluding with our most recent cycle in 2022. The cycle numbers and award amounts are shown here on the left side of this slide, and they demonstrate an overall investment of about $60 million to our region since the program began. The pie chart on the right shows that about 79% of the funding, or about $47 million, has been awarded to capital projects, while 21%, or about $12 million, has been awarded to planning projects. There have been more than 70 different planning and capital projects awarded funding throughout the region over the program's lifespan. It's also been able to leverage an additional $47 million in other funding, representing a total investment of over $100 million to our region. Images from a few of our prior projects are shown on this slide from the cities of Chula Vista, San Marcos, Lemon Grove, and San Diego. Other example projects include traffic calming infrastructure, pedestrian promenades, curb, gutter, and sidewalk improvements. Some planning projects funded in the past include developing innovative financing mechanisms, mixed use and commercial corridor plans, transit center connections, and complete street design manuals. So I'll summarize the work that my team has done to develop the call for projects, and this is included for you in attachment 3. So we did a whole slew of stakeholder engagement to get us to where we are today. It began last November with a listening session with your local jurisdiction staff. In June, we brought our draft scoring criteria to our working group. So went to sustainable communities, mobility, and social equity, and to ask for their feedback and discussion. In July, we shared the draft criteria with the Transportation Committee and the Climate Action Planning Task Force. And lastly, in September, the draft scoring criteria were brought to the Regional Planning Committee for their input. This is a brief summary of the feedback that we received as a result of that stakeholder input. So from our local jurisdiction staff, we learned that the barriers they have with submitting an application include limited staff resources for grant writing and grant administration. We also heard about complicated application processes used in prior cycles and other competing priorities that they're juggling with. Your staff also shared ways in which we can help through that application process and administration to make the overall program more accessible. Feedback received from our working groups and policy advisory committees included raising the maximum award amount to account for inflation, a greater consideration for equity and investing in our underserved communities, reducing the administrative burden on our applicants, and not limiting the number of awards that a single jurisdiction could receive. In July of 2023, the Transportation Committee requested several changes to be made to how we conduct all of our grant program call for projects, which are summarized on this slide. These changes help provide greater transparency to the process, and they distribute our funding more broadly across the region. So in response to all of this feedback that we received, we made changes to our call for projects, and I'm going to go through those really briefly. First was to increase the project award maximum for our planning projects from $500,000 to $1 million, and for capital projects from $2.5 million to $3.5 million. Second was to enhance our community engagement criteria to prioritize projects that are community-led, that serve underserved populations, and provide a meaningful role for the community to provide feedback throughout that project lifespan. Third was we reduced the administrative burden on our applicants by simplifying the application and including more quantitative questions like yes or no, and providing technical assistance to our applicants throughout the application period. And then fourth is we allow our jurisdictions that have an adopted climate action plan to receive funding for monitoring or implementation efforts that align with the program's principles and the 2021 Regional Plan EIR. So I'll now turn things over to Goldie to discuss the eligibility and the final call for projects.
Thank you so much, Jenny. So first, I want to go over a couple salient eligibility changes for this upcoming cycle. And the first one being related to project locations. So previous Smart Growth Incentive Program, or SGIP cycles, only funded projects with within geographically restricted Smart Growth Opportunity Areas, or SGOAs for short. The location and extent of SGOAs are defined within each regional plan. So to provide greater flexibility and to reduce restrictions on where SGIP funds can be invested, we are proposing to remove geographic boundaries from the eligibility criteria. And instead, projects would need to further smart growth principles along with achieving the goals and objectives of the 2021 regional plan and the sustainable community strategies. The next eligibility topic is related to climate action plans, or CAPs. With the adoption of the 2021 regional plan and the environmental impact report, or EIR, applicants now must have locally adopted CAPs or greenhouse gas or GHG reduction plans in order to be eligible to receive SGIP funding. Agencies that do not have a locally adopted CAP or GHG reduction plan can apply for SGIP funding this cycle to develop one of those under the Climate Action Plan project category. The evaluation criteria for this category will prioritize funding new CAPs over other Climate Action Plan activities. So now I'll go into the final call for projects, cycle 6. So like prior rounds of SGIP funding, staff proposes to fund 2 types of projects, planning and capital, and to address the mitigation measure for the 2021 Regional Plan EIR, we're adding an additional project type for climate action plans to be included in this round. Staff is proposing to release $45 million this cycle. The pie chart on the left shows that the majority of funds will be allocated to capital projects at $30 million, followed by $12 million for planning projects. And then the remaining $3 million will go towards the climate action plan category. The table on agencies will be able to submit multiple applications. Just as a note, one project application per project category. And then if there are leftover funding available for a project type, we could move that money around for oversubscribed project categories. So the table on the right shows you the minimum and maximum award thresholds for each project type. As Jenny mentioned, I just want to point out the two raised categories for the maximum thresholds for the maximum amounts for planning and capital. The next slide provides a summary of the evaluation criteria for both planning projects and capital projects. These criteria are largely the same, but for on the capital side, we have an additional sub-criteria 4A called major milestones completed. This criteria will provide points to projects that have progressed through typical capital project processes or milestones like planning, design documents, securing environmental permits, right-of-way, et cetera. Also of note, we've added the sub-criteria efficient use of program funds for this cycle, which will closely evaluate a project's schedule, scope, and budget, and award more points to projects that clearly demonstrate how they will efficiently use smart growth funds. And finally, we have the third category, CAP projects, their evaluation criteria. So as a reminder, this category will fund new CAPs, updates to CAPs, and CAP implementation and monitoring activities. For agencies that have yet to develop or adopt a climate action plan, or if they need to update their CAP, those applications will be evaluated under criteria 1 on this table. And other eligible project activities that would be evaluated under this criteria include greenhouse gas emissions inventory, emissions forecasts and reduction targets. And then for agencies that already have updated CAPs and want funding for implementation and monitoring activities, those projects would be evaluated under criteria 2. Just a note though, any new CAPs or CAP updates can receive projects for criteria 2 if they include implementation and monitoring activities. And finally, any planning or capital projects that result of a climate action plan would apply for funding through their respective planning or capital funding pots of funding. This slide shows the smart growth call for projects timeline and the next steps in the process. So pending board approval today, we will release the call for projects in January and applications will be due in April. There's a 90-day application window. Projects will then, after April, be evaluated and funding recommendations will be brought to ITALC, RPC, and TC with their recommendations to the board in the June to July timeframe of next year. And projects are anticipated to begin work in October and conclude in the 2028-2029 timeframe. So as Mario alluded to before this report, we are seeking your direction on eligibility provisions related to matching funds. So for some historical context, like most competitive grant programs, previous smart growth call for projects awarded points to projects that provide matching funds. And matching funds from applicants can come from things like in-kind services or cash from the applicant. Points are awarded based on how much match they provide as compared to the overall project cost. And other Transnet funds, including local street and road program funding, were allowed in the past to be used as cash match, along with federal, local, and state funding. However, most federal and state grant programs do not allow applicants to provide matching funds that are from the same source for which they're applying for. So because of this, staff recommended to TC and RPC that other Transnet funding, including local street and road program funding, not be a permitted cash match funding source. And so TC and RPC discussed this recommendation. Oh, it's muscle memory to change it when I flip my page. Okay, so when RPC and TC met on October 18th and November 1st, respectively, they expressed concerns about this harming small cities that might not have other sources of matching fund. And the committee members discussed potentially removing the matching criteria altogether, but ultimately they decided not to recommend any changes to the draft call for projects, which included the prohibition of Transnet being used as cash match, since in-kind services can include staff time or labor time as a match. So the Transportation and Regional Planning Committee recommends that the Board of Directors approve the evaluation criteria and release the Cycle 6 call for projects for the Smart Growth Incentive Program. So then ITALK discussed this item after TC and RPC. And just for reference, typically we go to ITALK first, but ITALK didn't have quorum in October. So at the November 12th ITALK meeting, members voiced their concerns that this change could harm smaller cities and underserved communities that don't have any other matching funding source besides Transnet. And so ITALK members noted that smart growth funds make many regional local projects possible, and the number of opportunities for local improvements should be maximized. And so ITALK recommends to the board that they approve the evaluation criteria except for prohibiting using other Transnet funding as cash match and release the Cycle 6 call for projects for smart growth. So the board is asked to consider recommendations from TC, RPC, and ITALK and direct staff on whether other Transnet funding, including local street and road program, be permitted as a source of match. And this concludes our presentation, but I'll just go back so we can discuss this item.
Very good. Thank you, Goldie and Jenny. We'll now go on to public comments.
Thank you. Our first public commenter will be Truth, followed by Michael Brando.
Why do the projects in different states look exactly the same as here? Has anyone ever questioned these things? On page 39, SANDAG needs to provide evidence that the 60 million tax dollars wasted on stupid growth has created great places. Expensive stack packs without a backyard don't count as increasing housing options, and no parking doesn't count as increasing transportation choices. There's not one metric about making public transit safe. Quote, public perception changes in trust in government among residents adjacent to the project compared to with residents of controlled neighborhoods, end quote. What? I don't even trust SANDAG's Lemon Grove Trolley Plaza filled with drug addicts. But since the Transnet tax dollars will now be prohibited from match use, the only legal parameter SANDAG's ever chosen to follow, I expect fewer smaller cities to be able to pay for projects. Does SANDAG have staff that specializes in certain areas of the county in order to tailor to specific barriers? There should be a consideration of how many grants have been given to a single applicant. If that could be done to fact, it should equally apply to cities. Note areas with less English proficiency getting first dibs. How about prioritizing areas that have been underserved by SANDAG? Think rural East County.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Michael Brando, followed by Mark.
Regarding all of this climate action nonsense, this again shows how this organization is tied in with the State of California Corporation and United States Corporation, not the organic constitutional republic. I don't know if some of you noticed yesterday, it's related to this, all the spraying in the sky. I was out and about and people started asking me, did you notice all the spraying going on? Spraying. It's called geoengineering. Geoengineering the climate. This is an omission here at this board. This board never talks about this. And believe it or not, although I don't have any faith in him, RFK Jr. is actually talking about geoengineering. I mention all of this because it dovetails with everything else that's been shared here. And I do want to mention something that Truth said. The housing projects, why are they so ugly? The stack and packs, we need a consciousness action plan. We need to develop our own consciousness action plan because this is what 2025 is about, narrative collapse.
Our next speaker will be Mark, followed by Cesar Javier.
Rosa Corey states, and it's a real UN objective. They say so themselves. It's not up for debate. Inventory and control of, and they mention everything, including you, one by one. The world, inventory and control of the world. Increased compact housing and transportation choices. That's just a lowering of our standard of living. Funding recommendations are all a scam. Climate action plan, there's no other science we have where scientists are so divided. They agree on if meteors might hit the planet, however rare, that just about everything. The fact that Judith Curry, John Coleman, William Happer, Lord Monkton disagree on this when they're so reputable should tell you that, and John Coleman says it's a scam. Stakeholder input, the input of the people making money off it to help the globalists. It's sad that people get an education and can make the most money selling this out like that. Communities blackmailed for funding that their people gave to the federal government. They can't get if they don't do climate action.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Cesar Javier, followed by Alan C. on Zoom.
Thank you, SANDAG. We cannot combat or defeat nature, but we can only prepare and protect humans. 3.3 million humans region-wide. I dream, because I have faith in SANDAG, to have essential vital need for survival. Clean air for all. Clean water for all. We have the Pacific Ocean. From the military, they convert that into potable water. Why can't SANDAG talk about this so we can have a preparation for the seasonal fire that occurs year after year after year, just like what happened in Rolando College, Montezuma. Our lawmakers are just scratching his head. I know the answer, sir. They do not listen.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our
Thank
next
you.
speaker will
Please
be
give
Alan
me,
C.,
thank you, SANDAG.
followed by Catherine Rhodes.
Hello, microphone check. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to quote the poll ballot from Transnet, 60-year tax. To relieve traffic congestion, improve safety, and match state and federal funds by expanding I-5, I-8, I-15, SR-52, all the freeways. Line item 2, maintain improving local roads. You cannot cut the funds. Cities deserve them. Yet your own report last month stated 97.2% of the population prefer the car, yet you keep pushing transit. When you push your fast track, your managed lanes, it means you admit the toll lanes are a fail. Don't double tax the people. Transit promised to expand these freeways, not toll lanes, not managed lanes. It also promised to maintain local roads, not chopping it off for your climate program and any others. Maintain the roads to service the people. I yield back.
Our next speaker will be Catherine Rhodes, followed by the original draw. Catherine, you can go ahead.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and on page 34, you have project priorities. Homelessness should be your #1 project priority. People and seniors are dying on our streets. There's Nora Vargas there, my city council person, Joe LaCava there. There's so many of you there that I'm asking for help. I'm asking for help so that we can get some of this money here from SANDAG for the homeless. For example, Silver Steer and Straight Beach with 1,000 parking spaces for veterans and seniors. We could have this as an opportunity to upgrade the park, including restrooms and affordable housing for the camping after we've, clean up the Tijuana River because it's closed now. So anyway, this could be part of the climate action plan to mitigate and including sand dunes and raising the area. So please, somebody, please be the champion for the homeless. And please, let's try to get some of this money for
Thank you. Our next speaker will be the original draw, followed by Paul the Bold.
And let's be real here. These are 15-minute city incentive programs that you guys are bringing forward. It's pretty ridiculous that, you don't even understand what you're doing, half of you, and half of you probably do. But you're believing in the propaganda of the climate lies that are happening, and you're willing to enslave the people into a small little compact area. And it's been interesting watching it happen over the last several years, incrementally coming in. And it'll be interesting to see when like the ALPRs are used to keep people out of low emission zones, and when you bring forward a fee to be able to leave your 15-minute city because, you know, you're going to have to mitigate the GHGs that you're causing or what have you. You know, this is a United Nations agenda that nobody was elected to put forward, yet you guys are pushing it. And you're using our money to do it, and you're actually taking away options and our ability to travel, especially with the roads. You won't expand them. You have to get us out of our cars. So welcome to your 15-minute city.
Our next speaker will be Paul the Bold, who will be followed by Blair Beekman.
Paul Bold, seems that the only input you got on project pros and cons, how practical it is, are from the grantees, but little to no input from the community. It would be great to know how receptive it is to the project, what their needs really are, what could be improved, and so on. Sounds as if you're setting yourself up either for failure or for spending a lot on fixing things that wouldn't be so wrong if the community had input. Community input would also help set goals and prioritize projects for the cycle 6. I see some metrics, but you need them early, not after the plan is made. And community satisfaction with the project definitely should be a metric. If small cities can't afford matching funds, I suggest you put them into a general countywide fund. Limiting funding to projects only in opportunity areas identified.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Blair Beekman, who will be followed by Consuelo.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for this item. Trying to offer some of life's rough draft ideas for items like this. I'm really interested in the iTalk program. It sounds like a real great place. I can bring my own ideas and constructive criticisms to the board and have them hear and work on their issues. In traveling in Southeast Asia, I've been really amazed that, you know, all the buildings are really tall here, and they're based a lot on, you know, French European style architecture. That's what we're trying to build in the future of local American cities, where we're kind of used to more two-story and horizontal buildings instead of vertical. There's probably a lot of UN things involved here that we've had to take a real slow approach over the last several years, that I think yourselves are also doing that, taking a slow approach. It's time that you're gearing this stuff up to maybe explain where you're taking a slow approach and having differences with UNID.
Thank you. Our final speaker on this item will be Consuelo. You can go ahead.
Okay, Consuelo here. So regarding the climate change action plan, does this consist of calling out the actual, calling out and actually targeting the ones responsible for the climate being engineered? This government corporation is just a business with no incentive to deliver agreed upon services. The idea that these projects are more important than actual human lives of those in need living in our county is the root cause of all that is wrong with the world. Again, beings living in two totally different worlds. Reminder, the UN agenda for the 21st century is real. This chairwoman knows it. Many of you do too. Now's the time to be brave. Stand up to what they're trying to do. Please.
That concludes the public comments.
Very good. Okay, we're on to member comment. First, I want to go to Mayor Jones, who made comments last item.
Thank
If you
you.
could just summarize them to put them into context of what we had just been
Yes,
Your end,
so
please.
actually, so in the last item, I thumbed my staff, that's me. I lost my tabs and so I thumbed forward. So when I was talking about the impact metrics, that actually is for this item. And it's funny because Mario came over and he said, oh, wait, did you mean for the next item? I go, yeah, I already figured that out. Anyway, so the impact metrics of the geographically disadvantaged areas, all of the comments that I had, if we could just move them over. Do you want me to say them again?
The summary is basically that you want more.
Well, I think there needs to be a large emphasis because, back to the point that I made a little bit earlier, and that is when we have areas that they live because of financial reasons, we can't be the reason that they cannot have their upward mobility because we're standing in the way of that, because we're penalizing them essentially for living in more of the outer areas. We need to make sure we have as many options for them as well to help them get around.
So given that we took away the geographical boundaries, basically, would that take care of the comments that Mayor Jones made?
It does help it. I mean, many of those projects are covered by the county, so it all opens up the ability for them to apply for funding for those specific areas.
Yeah, and I mean, just like when we're talking about, Valley Center, Fallbrook, those outer areas, and even East County, Alpine and all of that, they really have a difficult time getting around. And our tribal areas as well, they just have no options really. And so we don't want them to be stuck and not able to, like I said, get those better jobs and continue to help themselves. So thank you.
Very good, thanks. Councilmember Burkholder.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I wasn't yawning just then, I promise. I have a question about the staff report. Help me understand. When on my page, it's page number 33, and we're talking about staff having reviewed the Transnet Extension Ordinance and Expenditure Plan and Board Policy 31. And then it says like in mid-paragraph, are you guys able to locate? Okay, and then it says the ordinance and expenditure plan states it is intended that these SGIP funds be used to match federal, state, local, and private funding to maximize the number of improvements to be implemented. Okay, I'm just wondering, where is the reference for how that plan, the ordinance and expenditure plan, where did you read that? Where is that noted?
The last sentence?
Yeah, it just says that the ordinance and expenditure plan states that, but I'm not sure that it does. I'm not sure that it talks about SGIP. So that's why I wanted to go back and say, well, maybe I'm misreading something, but I don't know what to go back to because I don't see it in the Transit Extension Ordinance and Expenditure Plan. So I'm not sure. I'm just trying to get out, where did you get that?
Yeah, I can go back and look and see what page it's on.
If you'll just send it to me, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Because I just have kind of a heartburn with spending, really, with doing any matching, cities doing it and agencies doing matching for what this entire MPO is supposed to be doing, which is transportation. And I'm hoping that it went through like a legal clearinghouse. Have you guys made sure this is even okay to do that, to partner this way with cities for these particular smart growth incentive programs?
For the program to exist, I'm confused.
So it's okay for, I'm at Carlsbad, right? So Carlsbad could just say, we got 250 grand. We're going to do this for climate action plan street here, ABC Street, and we're going to make improvements to it. It's in our climate action plan. SANDAG, we have 250 grand. Now SANDAG's supposed to come out and find more money for us to do that. My whole point is, I don't want the cities, all of us, to be spending money on something that SANDAG's supposed to be doing already in the name of we're reducing greenhouse gases and it's for the climate action plan and all of these things. We're already supposed to be taking that into consideration with our planning process. And then when you kind of went over this, Goldie, on the slide number 11, where we're talking about project locations. And I can empathize with Mayor Jones's comments about the East County and Bonsall and Fallbrook and things like that. I think removing the road user charge was part of the revision of the 2021 regional plan. So I feel like that has a lot of impact on whatever we're spending money on. And so when you say align with the 2021 regional plan and sustainable community strategy, that worries me a little bit because we're not even positive of where we're at with that right this second. And then I just needed I needed an actual definition with this, proposing no geographic constraints, but projects must. The third bullet point, advance equity, if you could just help me understand relative to these projects, what that looks like, that would be helpful.
So Councilmember Burkholder, I'm a little confused what you're pointing out. So this is the Smart Growth project that's under Transnet. And so we, it's third member roads, transit, and cities. So the question today is this other third, which is the roads for the cities. Can we choose to use those funds that we would normally use for our own roads as a matching fund if we have a project and we've submitted it for a Smart Growth grant? So there's always a matching fund requirement. So can we take this third pot that the city would get? And in my opinion, I don't think we would ever really want to use it because we've got a lot of potholes and things we want to deal with anyway. But can the cities, and with the consideration to small cities, use that pot of money for the matching grant for a project that a city comes to SANDAG with saying, we think this is a smart growth project. And the smart growth projects are all about, improving, reducing greenhouse gases, near transportation, blah, 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 blah. So we come to SANDAG for it. They're not telling us to do it. And so can we use that money for the match for the grant? Now, Transportation and Regional Planning discussed it, and my understanding is they said, no, but you can use staff time.
Yes.
As in kind. So the whole, so I'm
No, I think that helps me understand because I was going the other way around with it. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay.
Okay. So that makes sense to me. But then now I'll go back to a priority, like a prioritization thing. I don't want this to go above any other priorities that we already have going on. I mean, if there's something that comes up and staff is like, yeah, let's take this to SANDAG. Yeah.
So it's not SANDAG telling us.
Right. Okay. And that was where I was like, this is not making any sense to me. So that explains that. And thank you for that. I appreciate it. And that's why, well, the legal question goes away because now I'm backwards.
Okay.
Again,
Yes.
forwards.
Now you're turned around.
Yes, that's right. In the right direction. And then of course, advanced multimodal transportation. Yay on that. Thank you. I think it's really important. I've said it like over and over again. I think several of us have mentioned that we would appreciate that in our city. So thank you for that. And I don't have any other questions or concerns.
Okay. All right. I see nobody else on the board. So the question is, should we, yes, Goldie.
Thank you so much for summarizing that. I just wanted a quick correction.
Please.
You had stated that match is required. Match is not required.
It's not required.
As an eligibility criteria. You can put no match if you want. You just wouldn't get the small allocated points when your project is being evaluated. So it's not required.
Oh, okay. Well then.
Thank you.
So I'm really frankly unclear what problem that the Transportation Committee and Regional Planning Committee was trying to fix by recommending that we couldn't use that money if we wanted to. But you said that grants say you can't use from the same pot.
Yes, it's customary in a grant program that you don't match from the same source because you're supposed to be leveraging other dollars. So it was a staff question at that time. We didn't have ITALK's input, so we kind of went out of order. Right. And I think that's why their recommendation was to sort of leave it alone because match is not required and many jurisdictions apply with in-kind with staff resources anyway, so it doesn't really make a significant input. They were okay leaving it alone, but ITALK's recommendation was to allow it because they don't see it doesn't prevent harm. They weren't concerned about using transit to match Transnet. So it's just two different things coming to you from.
But it's not illegal to use that.
It is not.
So is there any problem with anybody saying that we could use our own pot of roads money if we wanted to for these extra points, I guess we would get if we provided? I mean, maybe Mayor Duncan, you're in regional planning, right?
No.
No, oh, okay, yeah, Councilmember Molina. Oh,
Thank you.
oh, yeah, they discussed it too, though, okay.
I do agree with you, Mayor Huebner, that, and the presenters, and making the point that smaller cities that do have fewer resources would find it more difficult to access funds from other sources. So if they have the potential to use existing monies that is already allotted to them from Transnet to apply as, or to use that as a match to satisfy those those extra points or that boost in their application, I think that is entirely okay to do. So I do agree with you, Mayor Huebner.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Duncan.
I just had a clarification question. And I know the chair mentioned, what problem was transportation or regional planning trying to fix? I actually understood it to be the opposite, right? Because if we allow in the rules that matching funds can come from the same source, isn't that the change? Isn't leaving it alone the way it is now? I guess let me even rephrase. So you can answer that question. I have one other follow-up.
Yes. If we leave it the way it is, you would be matching Transnet with Transnet.
Right. So for me, it isn't that the transportation or regional planning is trying to fix a problem. They're trying to leave it the way it is.
Okay.
Secondly, for me,
Thank you.
in the real world, which I'm trying to understand, I guess it depends, we'd have to do an analysis of what got approved or what didn't get approved. But do we see if we allowed, since, they discussed the in-kind contribution, right? The in-kind contribution, if I'm not mistaken, could just mean their city staff working on this.
Yes.
So I don't necessarily see making a change would actually do much of anything, but I'm not sure if you think it would.
We don't either. I mean, we look back through data. It's just a clarification. The question comes up every couple of years. Should we allow it? That's really where this came from. It's not a problem. It was just to kind of have it set straight if the question comes up. How do we feel about it?
So I appreciate it. So I would leave it as the Transportation Committee and Regional Planning had suggested and not make a change.
Meaning that they cannot use their local roads or I'm
You cannot use same source funds as your contribution. Yes, in your application, you could use your in-kind, which is how it has been, and I'm not aware of it being any problem whatsoever.
Okay, all right. Councilmember Robinson.
I think the mayor just answered my question, but I just want to make sure. So the legal thing got settled for me. That was one I had. If it were to use the same pot of money, the real risk is in the grant process, you may not get approved for the grant, right? Is that how I understand?
Potentially, it's 5% of the overall points or 5 points. When looking at past cycles, we look through the last 3 years that we have, and there wasn't a difference. So folks that were funded had match or didn't have match. It was really a mixture. It doesn't materially change anything from prior. Granted, we're post-COVID now, so then climate in those prior cycles were very different. In terms of match, there may have been more folks that had match then that don't have match now. It's kind of hard to tell, but we don't see it really having a material effect on the applications.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, Mayor Minto.
The way I see it is this is very similar to federal and state grant funding. They want you to have a match. And it goes back to the old saying about, we just want you to have some skin in the game. And that means that, you are not just giving away money and then we don't know when it's going to be used or how it's going to be used for sure. And that way there's more reporting on it also. And there's no reason why you couldn't think ahead in your planning to use anything like maybe SB1 funding or other, pockets of money or your capital improvement project would have a set aside in there for these kinds of things. So I think it's a very straightforward project. Smart growth is not what it used to be, but we're stuck with it, I think, unfortunately, but I'll go ahead and I'll move the item.
Okay, so we're going to move. Do we need a motion to move an item to remain the same?
Yeah, it's like a reaffirmation, I think.
Okay, all right, a motion. Okay, a motion by Minto and a second by Chavez to leave everything the same. And which means that cities cannot go to the same pot of money again. All right. Okay, I'm fine with that. Delmar? Yeah, the one time drum roll for Supervisor Anderson.
Got real power now.
Okay.
That scares me.
Okay.
That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Okay. Hey, look at the time, guys.
Sure.
Okay, so now we are on to non-agenda public comments that have been continued. Oh, wait, I do one other thing. Is he here? Oh, my gosh. We were just going to give Mel Katz a plaque and he's not here. All right, well, perhaps Delmar can take it to him? Okay, that sounds good. Okay. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to go to continued public comments, non-agenda public comments.
Thank you very much. We're going to start with Mark in the room, if you'd like to step up to the podium, and then we'll go to the folks online. If you could raise your hands for me so that it's a little easier to manage the Zoom, I would appreciate it. So we'll start, after Mark will be Consuelo, then Blair Beekman, Paul the Bold, the original draw, Jason B., Catherine Rhodes, and Leah.
Claudia Silva, the attorney, was advising Nora at the last meeting. And she gave her totally erroneous advice. 1 minute is not reasonable under the Brown Act. She took 4.5 minutes to give her advice. How many minutes have you guys taken today? I want you to imagine saying everything you wanted to say in 1 minute. It is simply not possible, which is why I often come off very rude and short. So also, it's totally against Mara Elliott's First Amendment overview. Profanity is permitted. Being loud is permitted. Critiquing staff is permitted. Being loud does not disturb other speakers at all. And my First Amendment right is especially important, even if it bothers some people. Tyrants cannot determine if their victims are off topic. 54954.3C says we can critique omissions. And a good example, there's this guy who thinks that there was election fraud. So the representatives voting on topics, well, yeah, that relates to everything, whether you agree with them or not.
Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Consuelo. You can go ahead.
Okay, I'm not sure what I wanted to say, but I think I'll just, I'm going to read this little meme that I found, and pretty great one. Anyways, so it says, many people are angry, excuse me, at each other, but not at the system they live in. It is a form of projection at the wrong target, blaming the players instead of questioning the game and how it is played. The system stays undefeated. It is not just about waking up the falsehoods on this planet. It is mostly about waking up to who we really are. It's about taking back control of our minds and our hearts. And yeah, with that being said, happy freaking holidays, happy New Year, and happy Friday the 13th, happy solstice. Actually, the New Year's in March, but whatever. In this system, everything's backwards.
Our next speaker will be Blair Beekman, and Blair will be followed by Paul the Bold. Blair, you can go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. Yeah, the work I do with tech accountability, it actually started from the UN. And it was meant, I think, in best UN practices, when you bring them to the local level, it's for local community to then work on the issue themselves and come up with their own ideas and their own solutions to solve problems. I hope you can do that with the previous housing item, and that you can really learn to express, where your differences are with UN initial ideas and what we're doing different here at the local level. It builds best ideals that way. The work with tech accountability works towards, I think, our best ideals. And when we do that, we practice concepts of peace and positive sustainability before the concepts of continual war. which I think we can do really well here at the local level and give great examples to the world to work towards peace and not war. Good luck to want to work towards openness and accountability. It's a great cause.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Paul the Bold, and Paul will be followed by the original draw.
Hi, Paul Bold. Jack Shu once called this a cash poor agency. You need to focus on transportation, like fire escape routes in East County or moving the train tracks in Del Mar. Tony Krantz's idea to route the train tracks up the I-15 corridor makes sense. Not only would it save a lot of time, effort, lives maybe, and dollars, but it would be a far easier connection to the fast trains to Vegas and SF to LA. And it would be ready a lot sooner than 2035. The parking lot inside the Del Mar Fair is so cracked that it suggests major soil instability, which means a tunnel or track there or anywhere near the ocean probably won't work. There are too many erosion spots and choke points throughout the lost sand tracks up the I-5 corridor, erosion from the ocean, and landslides from the steep cliffs.
Thank you. Your time expired. Our next speaker is the original draw, followed by Catherine Rhodes.
You guys need to be mindful of the chair of this board and all the things that she's doing. She's a dual citizen. Her allegiance is with Mexico, and I would say the United Nations as well. And it's going to lead San Diego into a very tumultuous time, having the new administration come in and basically saying, fuck you to the federal government. As I told them at the Board of Supervisors, when you do that, the federal government's going to say, fuck you too. And you guys are going to be sorely mistaken when you continue to support somebody who is in favor of having our invasion happen on our nation, on our border, while little girls are being raped, and we're protecting predators over the victims. And when you think about what's actually happening with the people coming across, they're being raped and murdered. Okay, they're being exploited. And if you actually cared about those people, you would ensure that that doesn't continue and that you don't continue to aid and abet and engage in treason and the invasion of our border, because the federal government is coming and they're going to come in hot after you guys, and you will be held accountable.
Our final speaker will be Catherine Rhodes. You can go ahead.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. And again, I'm asking our county representatives there at SANDAG, including Supervisors Joel Anderson, Supervisor Nora Vargas, or Chair Nora Vargas, and my city council person, now council member Joe LaCava, to look into getting justice for the homeless and the poor, including the 10,000 affordable housing units that were destroyed in the former redevelopment CCDC project area. And so I was working with county staff, but basically they're trying to tell me it's a city problem when it's actually a county problem. The only thing that is required is approval by 4 of the 7 oversight board members. And we can put $5 to $10 billion for affordable housing and homeless and everything to do with drug and alcohol rehab. I just need somebody to be a leader on this. I can't do this myself.
Thank you. Your time has expired, and that concludes the public commenters.
All right. I was just told that I need to make a correction that we are not having executive committee meeting in January. We had our executive committee meeting in December. Is that correct? All right. So I misread the paragraph. All right. Okay. So that concludes our meeting.
Could I request 1 minute to make a board member non-agenda comment?
Sure.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'll be quick. I just wanted to mention a comment because I looked up the answer myself in regard to the Regional Planning Committee. So in 2023, the Regional Planning Committee was scheduled to meet monthly. However, 8 meetings were canceled. So it met twice in 2023 as a standalone committee and then had 2 joint meetings. So in 2023, there was a total of 4 meetings. At some point after that, it appears that their meeting schedule was changed to meet every other month, so 6 times per year. So in 2024, they did schedule 6 standalone meetings for the Regional Planning Committee. 2 were canceled. So there were 4 standalone Regional Planning Committee meetings in 2024 and 1 joint one. So when I said my understanding was that they were meeting approximately 4 times a year, that is not only, what I heard, it's actually accurate according to SANDAG's records that I just looked at online. And that is why I'm not looking for an answer now, but I just wanted to mention it before we left today, because that is my concern when we talk about where is RENA going to be discussed and housed to try to avoid problems we've had in the past for all the cities, but particularly for the smaller cities. That was the concern I just wanted to share with the board. So thank you for allowing me the 1 minute. I appreciate it.
Sure, and we're doing a review of all of the committees and when they meet and our schedule and all of that. Yes, and believe me, I share your concerns with the small cities in RENA and where that would be best to take place. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. All right, okay, I will adjourn this meeting. Happy holidays, everyone. We will be back here January 10th at 10:30 a.m. Okay.